All right, now you should be able to hear me. Let's try this again. What's going on, everyone? My name is Gucci Miss, and we're gonna play some Get to Work today. I had a hell of a time at the dentist, so my mouth fucking hurts, and I don't want to do a whole lot of talking, so I'm gonna let my AI do the talking for me. Also, I notice I have 2 pending streams. Hopefully that's not fucking shit up for me, but I put it in the description below. Basically, this works by it'll take your ideas from chat at certain points in the story, and it'll use it to influence the story, change it in different ways. And then once new story time comes up, it'll also take your ideas, plan out the story a little differently. So that's what we got, and we're gonna play some Get to Work. This game has been great comfort to me these past couple days while I've just reeling. But yeah, we're gonna do this. We're gonna listen to some stories, and we're gonna judge the stories, and that's gonna be the stream. And I'm not gonna do a shit ton of talking. And let me just hit the right thing here. There we go. Okay. So let me go ahead and get this rolling here. All right, I need my freaking stream key. Hold up. Back to YouTube here. Oh, man. Been a hell of a couple of days, let me tell you, but hopefully things will start getting a little back to normal soon. Lives, there we go. Okay, video ID, submit. Now I can see everything. Wonderful. Looks good. I'm just gonna go ahead and get it started. I do have subtitles that I'm working on for it, but I'm having trouble getting the scrolling working, so we're going without subtitles today. Probably adjust audio here. Be a little higher. And sorry, Sea Dog and Atrioc, I gotta turn down dialogue volume. Kind of like, but the subtitles will still be on for that, so that'll be fine. Sweet. Perfect. Cool. So this first story is just like a generic adventure story, very bare bones. There'll be a lot of different kinds of stories as we go on. They won't all just be fantasy adventure, so no worries. What we're gonna start off with, get a baseline, see how she does. So without further ado, the storyteller. And I'll go ahead and start a new game. Hopefully the volume will just all be good. And I'm pouring ball. I gotta get to work. I'll wait a second here, make sure Storyteller goes a good volume.
In the heart of an ancient, sprawling forest known as Eldergrove, where towering trees whispered secrets and sunlight danced upon shimmering streams, lived 2 unlikely companions. A daring young woman named Elowen and her steadfast friend, a grizzled war owl named Thorn. Elowen was slender with raven-black hair that flowed like midnight silk down her back, and her emerald eyes sparkled with curiosity and determination. Thorn, on the other hand, bore a mottled plumage of gray and brown feathers, adorned with remnants of past battles. One fierce talon had been chipped during an encounter with a sly fox. The peace of their woodland home was shattered one fateful morning, when they stumbled upon an ominous clearing cloaked in shadows. In its center lay the remnants of an ancient stone obelisk, cracked and half-buried in creeping vines, that emitted a strange hum which vibrated through the ground beneath their feet. Legends spoke of this artifact as a key to unimaginable power, but also warned of dire consequences for those who dared to tamper with it. Determined yet apprehensive, Eloin felt the call of adventure tugging at her heartstrings. As night fell, rumors spread through Eldergrove about shadowy figures seen near the obelisk, dark beings looking for something long lost. With whispers echoing in her mind, she knew she could not turn back. Not now. Her destiny awaited amidst danger lurking just beyond the next grove.
Yeah, not a bad start. Kind of liking it so far.
Waiting 15 seconds for new ideas.
There will be a small delay between parts. I don't have Unity on right now. Apologies about that.
With her heart pounding, Eloin stepped closer to the obelisk, its granite surface cool and eerie beneath her fingertips. The humming grew stronger, resonating in her chest like a heartbeat, a summons she could not ignore. Thorn perched protectively on a branch above her, his amber eyes scanning the surroundings for any sign of danger. "Be cautious, Eloin," he hooted softly, his voice laced with concern. "The stories are not meant to be trifled with." But courage blossomed within her. She had always been one to face the unknown head-on. She knelt before the stone, brushing away leaves and dirt to reveal intricate carvings that danced along its surface, symbols of forgotten languages and ancient rites. As she studied them under the moonlight's glow, an ethereal wind swept through the clearing, carrying whispers that seemed almost familiar. Suddenly, shadows stirred at the edge of the grove, figures emerging from between the trees cloaked in tattered robes that draped ominously over their forms. Their faces were obscured by hoods cast deep in shadow, but their intentions radiated malice as they moved toward her with unsettling grace. Eloin felt a shiver travel down her spine as she realized these were no mere specters. They were seekers of power drawn by the obelisk's call. With limited time to act and Thorn desperate for a plan, Eloin knew she needed a strategy, not just for herself, but for all those who called Eldergrove home. Waiting 15 seconds for new ideas. Heart racing, Eloin jumped to her feet and instinctively placed herself between the obelisk and the approaching figures. The moonlight reflected off her determined eyes, giving her an air of defiance that surprised even Thorn. He spread his wings wide, ready to dive into battle if it came to that. "Who dares approach the Keeper of Secrets?" one shadowy figure intoned, their voice a chilling whisper that echoed through the clearing like a haunting melody. "I am Eloin of Eldergrove," she proclaimed boldly, casting aside fear. "What do you seek? The power bound within this stone belongs to us," he hissed back, stepping forward with his companions shrouded in darkness. They moved almost as one, a synchronized dance of malevolence, each step deliberate and threatening. Eloin's mind raced. She could feel the energy pulsing from the obelisk, an intoxicating force that beckoned both strength and peril. As they loomed closer, she sensed danger closing in around her. Realizing she needed to buy time for strategy or escape, Eloin summoned all her courage. "Step back! You don't understand the consequences of awakening what lies dormant," she warned, raising her voice above their murmurs. But they merely chuckled softly. It was a sound devoid of warmth or empathy. "You think we fear consequences? We thrive upon chaos." Feeling their dark intent washing over her like cold water, Eloin glanced at Thorn above. They had to act swiftly before this skirmish turned dire. With a resolve born only from desperation, she considered how best to use the obelisk, but uncertainty gnawed at her heart. The risk was monumental. waiting 15 seconds for new ideas.
Congratulations, you've completed the interview process. Unfortunately, the company needs you to do a take-home interview. I see a note here that says, sorry for making you jump through all these hoops. Oh, yeah. So the company just needs one more interview. The note here says, last one, we promise.
Eloan's breath quickened as the figures drew nearer, their eyes glowing with an unsettling light that pierced the shadows. She could feel the power of the obelisk surging beneath her fingertips, and a sense of urgency ignited within her, a primal instinct to protect not just herself, but all of Eldergrove. "Let us bargain," she shouted, hoping to stall for time. "If you seek power, I can unlock its secrets. Together we can wield it." The lead figure paused, his interest piqued momentarily by her words. "You believe yourself worthy? The power you speak of is not easily controlled," he replied, his voice low and taunting. Ignoring the chill running down her spine, Eloan stepped closer to the obelisk, urging Thorn silently to trust in her instincts. If she could draw them in long enough to decipher its inscriptions or at least disable its energy, it was a dangerous gamble. Every muscle in her body tensed at the thought of failing. "Just let me touch it," she implored desperately, forcing herself to maintain eye contact with their leader amidst swirling uncertainty filled with promise and peril. "I will show you how it can serve us both." With that declaration hanging palpably in the air like thunder before a storm, silence enveloped the clearing. It felt like time itself had stopped for just a second. The robed figures exchanged glances laden with potential betrayal, while Eloan's heart thudded loudly against her ribs. Finally, breaking through their hesitance, one shadowy figure moved forward slowly till mere steps separated them from Eloan, the unmistakable scent of danger reeking stronger than ever. Waiting 15 seconds for new ideas.
Congratulations on completing your training. Go home, get some rest.
Eloan's determination steeled as she squared her shoulders against the looming figure. "Trust me," she said, her voice unwavering even in fear's grip. The robed ones hesitated as their leader considered her plea, momentarily distracted by a flicker of intrigue. With swift resolve, Eloan reached out and placed her palm on the cold stone of the obelisk. Instantly, its power surged through her like a rippling tide, a torrent of ancient memories flashing before her eyes. She felt the weight of history anchored in that sacred place. Hidden wisdom whispered directly into her soul. "Stand back!" she cried with newfound strength, and an aura radiated from the obelisk, bright light scattering shadows across the clearing. The dark figures recoiled as if struck by lightning, revealing fleeting glimpses of their twisted faces contorted in horror. Drawing upon all that Eldergrove had taught her, the unity it fostered among its creatures, she commanded the energy to shield herself from their sinister intentions. Waves of light pulsed outward, engulfing everything until darkness was rendered powerless under its brilliance. The seekers scattered like leaves caught in a storm, shrieking curses that echoed off the trees until they dissolved into silence far beyond reach. Thorn swooped down and landed beside Eloan, his feathers ruffled but filled with pride for his brave companion. "I knew you had it within you," he hooted softly. As dawn broke over Eldergrove, bathing them in warm golden light, Eloan turned to the obelisk one last time before stepping away from its power and sealing it once again beneath layers of vine and dirt, its secrets safe for another age. Together with Thorn at her side, she walked back home knowing they would guard this land fiercely against future threats, and protect treasures more valuable than any power: friendship and courage entwined forever amidst nature's embrace.
Manager's position has opened up, and that comes with a pay raise.
waiting 15 seconds for new ideas. In the weeks that followed, Eldergrove thrived in a newfound harmony. Elowen and Thorn became legends among the forest's inhabitants, celebrated not just for their victory over darkness, but for cultivating bonds of unity throughout their community. The villagers held festivals in Elowen's honor, where tales of her bravery were told around crackling bonfires. With each passing day, the obelisk remained undisturbed, its power dormant yet integral to Eldergrove's heartbeat. Elowen dedicated herself to learning more about the forest and its secrets alongside Thorn, who often perched near her as she explored new trails or studied ancient texts left by those who had come before. As seasons changed and years passed, mighty trees grew taller while birds sang songs of freedom through vibrant branches. Eldergrove flourished under the watchful care of its guardians, safe from shadows that once threatened it. A place where light reigned supreme and hearts beat strong. Elowen had discovered that true strength lay not in power, but in connection with nature, with friends, and with every being blessed to call this enchanting grove home. End of story.
Okay, that is the end of our first story. I think I will actually stop the program here.
Starting a new story in 10 seconds.
No, you're not. Chill out. So yeah, not that bad, really. Let me pull up my list here. Stuff I was gonna judge it on. Oh, great! I closed it. Wonderful. We'll just go over a couple quick things. This is the first one we're judging on, so we'll just go kind of quick, get a baseline. Flow between parts. Yeah, I think the flow was pretty good between parts. It didn't really seem to jump the gun or jump the shark anywhere. Everything was pretty consistent. It was pretty clear, beginning, middle, and end. Yeah, consistency of plot elements. I mean, it was kind of hard to pay attention. I was also playing the damn game. But from what I understood, there was an obelisk. Our two characters, Elowen, was confronting the Seekers about using power. But the thing was, it was like really wordy. You know, it was just a lot of words, not a whole lot of action happening. I don't know. It's tough. It's tough to judge that one. And I don't think I want to do too much on it here some other. So I'm gonna worry too much about ranking this one. But I do need to pull up Notepad. Sweet, there we go. Okay. Now our next story. How about horror? Yes. Let's see if we can make something genuinely terrifying. Forgot if I turn it off and then back on, I gotta re-put in my dang code. Which is fine. I just have to put it in my notepad here. Sweet. And we'll just keep that stuff up. Cool. Should be underway.
In the heart of a dense, unyielding forest known as Elder Gloom, where shadows stretched like skeletal hands through the thickets, lay an abandoned village named Wraith Hollow. Once teeming with life and laughter, it now stood as a ghostly relic engulfed in vines and decay. The air was thick with the sweet rot of long-fallen leaves, mingling ominously with a damp chill that wrapped around visitors like a shroud. Three friends, Elena, Marcus, and Ravi, stood at the edge of this forsaken place. Elena, with her raven-black hair swept into a messy bun and eyes filled with curiosity, brushed off the unease creeping up her spine. Marcus sported a disheveled beard and wore an old leather jacket that had seen better days. He chuckled nervously at their audacity to explore Wraith Hollow after dark. Ravi was the skeptical one. His auburn curls bounced slightly as he paced back and forth anxiously. A local legend haunted their minds. The tale of Amelia Finch, who vanished without a trace decades ago during a freak storm while she explored an old well said to be cursed. Determined to uncover the truth behind Amelia's disappearance for their podcast series on urban legends, they ventured deeper into Wraith Hollow. Little did they know that danger lurked within its suffocating silence.
Damn kids in their podcasts. I swear to God, it's going to get them all killed. I forgot I can actually, like, technically talk now because it won't send
Waiting
everything to
15
Lily.
seconds for new ideas.
Also, I should put on some... This thing's also a pain in the ass, goddamn.
As they wandered down the crumbling cobblestone path, the moon hung high in the sky, its silvery glow struggling to pierce through the dense canopy above. Weeds protruded from between stones like distorted fingers reaching for warmth. The village square was overrun with tangled roots and moss-covered remnants of what once resembled a lively market filled with chatter and animated exchanges. "Look at that!" Elena called out, pointing toward an ancient well at the far end of the square. Its stones were slick with algae, glistening eerily in the dim light. "That's where Amelia disappeared." Ravi shivered involuntarily as they approached, his voice low and unsure. It could be just a story. Maybe she ran off into the woods to start a new life? He tried to dismiss their fears but felt tension tightening his chest. Marcus leaned closer to examine carvings etched into the stone surrounding the well symbols that twisted like serpents, invoking images of things best left forgotten. "This doesn't feel right." Suddenly, a chilling wind swept through Wraith Hollow, carrying whispers like lost souls crying out for help. In that moment, each friend exchanged frightened glances. The air thickened with foreboding clarity. Something unseen stirred below them. Shadows flitted along the edges of their vision. "It's just coincidence," Ravi muttered weakly as he stepped back slightly. Yet something deep inside him urged caution against dismissing what was clearly unfolding around them.
There's way too many
Waiting
people.
15
It's hard
seconds
to
for
keep
new
track of everyone.
ideas.
Just need to drop off.
Some would be discouraged knowing they only got the job because their obsession with rollerblades makes them the ideal candidate for grabbing coffee. But you...
As Elena knelt by the well's edge, her fingers brushed against the damp stone. What if we try to see inside?" she suggested, a mix of bravery and foolishness surging through her. Are you out of your mind? Marcus protested, eyes wide. The last thing we need is to end up like Amelia. Yet curiosity proved stronger than fear as Elena pulled out her phone for light. The beam cut through the darkness like a knife, revealing a narrow shaft that appeared to descend endlessly into murky depths. Ravi glanced around anxiously. Even the trees seemed to lean in closer, listening as though they were aware of their intentions. I can't believe I'm saying this, he sighed, apprehension lacing his voice. But maybe there's something down there that could explain all this. Without waiting for consensus, she leaned over further too far, and felt an unsettling tremor beneath her feet. The ground shifted ominously. Loose stones tumbled into the abyss below with sickening plops. Before anyone could react, a guttural sound erupted from within the well. A growl, or perhaps a mournful cry, echoing off ancient walls. Panic surged among them as vines began creeping toward Elena's legs like serpents constricting their prey. "Back away!" Marcus cried out, grabbing Elena's arm just in time. But it was too late. Shadows danced frantically around them while silence suddenly smothered their frantic breaths. Something was awakening deep within Wraith Hollow, a force eager to reclaim its lost stories and power, and they had inadvertently stirred it awake.
This one's actually pretty captivating.
Waiting 15 seconds for new ideas.
The all-hands meeting, your boss Bill announces that you've been chosen for the in-house interview, which, according to him, is just a bunch of softball questions since it's really more of a formality than anything.
With a paralyzing jolt, Elena stumbled backward as the ground quaked violently. Vines slithered hungrily around her ankles, pulling her toward the dark mouth of the well. Panic erupted among them. Ravi lunged forward to help, but was immediately entangled by an eerie mist that seemed to seep from the depths. "Marcus!" Elena screamed, struggling against the grip of shadowy tendrils. "Help him!" But Marcus was frozen in place, wide-eyed and horrified as he watched Ravi fight against the unseen force. Whispers filled the air, disembodied voices weaving through their minds with lamentations that spoke of betrayal and despair. Each word clawed at their sanity, beckoning them closer to the source. "Amelia!" Ravi shouted amidst his thrashing. "If you're down there, we're here to find you!" His voice trembled with desperation, but also a flicker of hope. A fool's errand, perhaps. Suddenly, a blinding light erupted from within the well, illuminating Wraith Hollow in ghostly hues that sent shadows retreating into hiding. The wind howled ominously, as if warning them to turn back before it was too late. "Don't get too close!" Marcus yelled frantically, as he fought not only for his friends, but for his own mind against those haunting whispers tightening their grip on his heart. In that instant, time stood still. Fear coalesced into a palpable entity enveloping them in an embrace far colder than any winter night they had ever known. With adrenaline coursing through her veins and every instinct screaming danger, Elena stole a glance at what lay inside. The swirling light revealing glimpses of faces twisted in anguish, and felt dread settle deeper than she could have imagined. It dawned on her. Whatever price they would pay for answers might be far greater than simple curiosity.
There is a very big possibility that all the characters can just get wiped out.
Waiting 15 seconds for new ideas.
I definitely made sure of that.
With a jarring pull, the shadows surged forward as if commanded by an ancient will, dragging Ravi deeper into the obsidian void. "Help me!" he cried, but a swirling mist enveloped him entirely, the darkness swallowing his figure, until only his desperate plea echoed in the air. Elena felt her heart pound painfully against her ribs. Gathering her strength, she reached for Marcus, who stood paralyzed with horror. "We have to save him! We can't leave him!" "Are you insane?" Marcus shouted over the cacophony of whispers that clawed at their minds. But even as he protested, something fierce awakened in Elena's spirit, a determination birthed from fear and loyalty. "No more running!" She gripped Marcus's arm and pulled him toward the well. The strange light within flickered dangerously, revealing ghostly figures pleading for release. Lost souls trapped between realms and seeking vindication rather than revenge. "I'll hold on to you," Marcus reluctantly agreed. Together they grabbed a long branch from an overturned cart nearby and extended it towards Ravi's outstretched hand. With every ounce of courage they summoned, they managed to grasp Ravi just as he began slipping into oblivion. They pulled with all their might. Moments stretched painfully as shadows swirled menacingly around them. Finally, breaking free from its clutches, Ravi tumbled back onto solid ground, just as the well erupted with blinding light one last time before collapsing inward upon itself. A force drawing everything back in. Tendrils shrunk away like frightened animals retreating into dense underbrush. Panting heavily on the cobblestone path drenched in moonlight streaks, they looked at each other. Exhausted, but alive. Amelia Finch's haunting presence faded into myth once more. Resolute silence enveloped Wraith Hollow. There would be no tales of lost souls here any longer. Only resilience amidst echoes of what had transpired. The three friends turned away together, leaving behind lingering shadows that could now rest in peace at last, carrying not only survival but also an unbreakable bond forged through shared terror and triumph, forever etched in their hearts.
Seems like they're gonna make it. Not all the dumbass kids do
Waiting
that.
15 seconds for new ideas.
Ah, fuck.
In the weeks that followed their harrowing encounter at Wraith Hollow, Elena, Marcus, and Ravi returned to the bustling life of their city. But shadows still clung to the corners of their minds. They spent countless evenings poring over recordings from their fateful night, piecing together fragments of conversations captured during the ordeal, whispers that revealed lost stories and heartache. With newfound conviction, they transformed their podcast into a platform for those whose voices had been silenced by time. Each episode delved into local legends and untold histories, providing solace to families seeking closure. As listeners resonated with their tales, the friends found healing in sharing both chilling narratives and heartfelt connections. Months later, a community event was organized around Wraith Hollow's legend, a gathering of remembrance for Amelia Finch and others who vanished into obscurity. As lanterns floated gently along the riverbank that bordered the village's ruins, Elena felt an overwhelming sense of peace wash over her. The shadows had been acknowledged and honored. In doing so, they released not only Amelia, but also themselves from fear's grip. Together, at last.
How about that? What's coming up next? Oh god, I got romance next.
End of story.
That could be pretty lame. Or it could be super funny.
Starting a new story in 10 seconds.
What is with the lag at this spot? That is crazy.
In the heart of a bustling, sun-drenched marketplace in Marrakesh, where vibrant spices danced in the air and colorful textiles fluttered like butterflies, Two souls were unknowingly on a collision course. Layla, a passionate artisan with deep chestnut hair that cascaded past her shoulders, worked tirelessly at her small stall, crafting delicate mosaics from shards of colored glass. Her expressive green eyes sparkled with creativity and resilience as she infused every piece with love. Across the way stood Samir, an ambitious travel writer from London. His parks, with tousled dark hair and a penchant for adventure evident in the ink stains on his fingers, he wandered the market searching for inspiration. His blue eyes glinted with excitement as they swept over the incredible sights before him. However, beneath this enthusiasm lay a gnawing sense of isolation from his fast-paced life back home. As fate would have it, while Layla displayed her latest masterpiece, a radiant sunburst mosaic, an unexpected gust of wind sent it tumbling to the ground. It shattered into countless pieces. Samir was nearby and rushed to help as their hands brushed over the scattered fragments. In that instant of connection, an undeniable spark ignited between them. A mixture of empathy and intrigue that neither could ignore, but shadows loomed ahead. Samir had planned only a brief stay before returning to his sterile life in London, while Layla harbored dreams beyond her beloved marketplace, as well as lingering scars from past heartbreaks. Would destiny dare allow their paths to entwine amid their fears?
I don't know.
Waiting 15 seconds for new ideas.
Gee.
Samir knelt, gathering the pieces of Layla's mosaic with careful hands, each shard glinting like a fractured memory. "I'm so sorry," he said gently, noticing the flicker of disappointment in her eyes. "This is beautiful work," Layla forced a smile, her heart aching as she surveyed the scattered remnants of her art. "Thank you. It was meant to represent hope and resilience," she replied softly, but beneath her stoic facade lay the pangs of despair. This piece had been months in the making. In an effort to lift their spirits, Samir suggested they grab tea at a nearby cafe tucked away from the thrumming marketplace. The sun cast warm, golden rays through wrought iron latticework as they took seats on a charming terrace adorned with vibrant bougainvillea. As they sipped sweet mint tea, laughter bubbled forth between them like effervescent champagne. Each story shared drew them closer. Layla spoke of her childhood adventures in Marrakesh's labyrinthine streets, while Samir recounted his misadventures traveling far-flung corners of the globe, a tale that involved a runaway camel and an unexpected mudslide. Their connection deepened with every laugh and sigh until reality broke through. A clock tower chimed ominously in the distance. Samir's flight loomed before him like an unwelcome specter, as he felt torn between the thrill of enchantment and his impending departure that snaked around his heart like thorns. Would he chase after adventure or retreat back into isolation?
I don't know, that camel story sounds intriguing though.
Waiting 15 seconds for new ideas.
The second round of interviews cuts out 90% of the applicants. The herd has been thinned out, and you're still standing strong. Wait, somehow Ted is in the running? When did he get a job here? Doesn't matter. Just stay focused and get that job.
As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting a soft orange glow over Marrakesh, Samir leaned back in his chair, wrestling with his emotions. He had never felt such an immediate connection with someone before, certainly not in the confines of sterile conference rooms or coffee shops where he usually wrote. But the thought of leaving threatened to suffocate this newfound joy. Layla noticed the contemplative look on Samir's face. "What weighs on you?" she asked gently, her rich voice cutting through their shared silence like a warm breeze. He hesitated, eyes flickering toward the distant horizon where pink clouds danced above shimmering rooftops. "I'm meant to fly back tomorrow," he admitted reluctantly. "I was hoping to find inspiration here, Yet I've discovered something so much more valuable. At that moment, Layla's heart sank. She longed for him to stay, but knew it was selfish. She took a deep breath, willing herself to be brave. We all have choices, she said softly, but sometimes we must decide whether to chase what is familiar or to embrace something beautiful and fleeting. Suddenly invigorated by her words, Samir's gaze bore into hers, a silent understanding passing between them that transcended language and culture. Time stretched out around them as they were both caught in a delicate web of hope and uncertainty. Just then, an older vendor approached with news that sent a chill racing down Layla's spine. There were rumors swirling about gentrification plans creeping into their charming neighborhood, a development project that threatened her beloved marketplace and everything she held dear.
Oh God, not gentrification.
Waiting 15 seconds for new ideas.
Well, there's got to be conflict somewhere.
As the vendor's words crashed over them like a sudden storm, Layla felt her heart plummet. The vibrant market she had known for years, with its rich tapestry of scents and sounds, was under siege. A battle against faceless corporations who sought to erase the soul of Marrakesh for sterile shops and lofty hotels. Her beloved mosaics, her life's work, part of this very culture, could vanish beneath a wave of cold concrete. Wait, what do you mean? Samir asked,
Was she
furrowing
talking
his
to a
brow in
shopkeeper
disbelief.
before?
Who would dare undo all of this? Layla stood abruptly, her fingers curling into fists as she stepped away from the table. She scanned the bustling marketplace. The familiar faces now masked with uncertainty and disbelief. They think they can come here and steal our heritage, she said fiercely, her emerald eyes ablaze with emotion. Samir rose quickly to follow her. But we can do something. We won't let that happen. But what? A petition? A protest? She shook her head vehemently. Despair mingled with determination in her voice. I have no power against money or influence. A palpable silence hung between them as realization dawned. Time was slipping away faster than both anticipated, both for Layla's fight and for Samir's fleeting visit. The clock tower rumbled again ominously behind them. The harsh reality that he would fly back to London within hours loomed like a specter. Layla, he said urgently as they stood just inches apart amidst the fading light. His voice trembled slightly but held an intensity that made her pulse race. What if I stay? What if I help you rally others? Together we can draw attention. For a heartbeat suspended in time, their mutual gaze crackled with unspoken promises. A connection forged not only from attraction, but from shared purpose. And yet every second stretched painfully closer to impending separation. Waiting 15 seconds for new ideas.
Keep forgetting it's over on that right fucking side.
Layla searched Samir's eyes, feeling the weight of his offer settle between them like a lifeline thrown into turbulent waters. You'd do that for me? For us? She whispered, her heart racing. Yes, he affirmed with unwavering conviction. We can gather locals, reach out to journalists, allies to preserve this place, our narratives. With renewed hope igniting within her, Layla realized they could not only save their vibrant marketplace, but also nurture the connection blooming between them. They quickly devised a plan. Samir would use his writing skills to craft stirring articles promoting the market's cultural importance, while Layla mobilized fellow artisans and vendors to speak out against the impending development. As dusk settled over Marrakesh in hues of lavender and gold, An electric energy coursed through the crowded streets as word spread. Their little cafe turned into an impromptu meeting place. A gathering of passionate voices united against faceless forces threatening their home. Days turned into weeks filled with fervent discussions. Protests adorned with colorful banners proclaiming support for local artists and history. Inspiring pieces of art decorated every corner, each one telling stories that echoed through time. In the final days before Samir's departure back to London, they held a community exhibition that showcased breathtaking mosaics alongside heartfelt letters from locals about what the market meant to them. Journalists flocked to capture this powerful movement. Soon enough, news went viral across social media platforms. Ultimately, city officials halted development plans following overwhelming public pressure. The marketplace remained untouched, a living testament to resilience and community spirit. Underneath twinkling stars on their last night together in Marrakesh, Layla took Samir's hands in hers, the soft warmth reassuring yet bittersweet. "You changed everything," she said softly when words seemed inadequate. "We did," he replied earnestly. They shared a lingering kiss beneath blossoming bougainvillea, a moment encased forever
fuck is
among memories and
bougainvillea?
dreams forged amid vibrant chaos. And though they parted ways at dawn's first light, hope glimmered brightly in both their hearts for futures warmed by love and purpose beyond borders.
Was that it? Oh, one more part.
Waiting 15 seconds for new ideas.
Oh, shit. I'm glad I just kind of went through that barrel.
After months of grueling interviews,
Months later, the bustling marketplace in Marrakesh thrived with renewed energy. Colorful flags fluttered overhead, and vendors proudly displayed their handcrafted goods, while vibrant murals told stories of resilience and community. Layla stood at her stall, surrounded by the familiar cacophony of life that had returned to her beloved home. In her heart, she carried Samir's unwavering spirit, bolstered by his articles that had sparked global interest in preserving local culture. They remained connected through letters filled with affection, encouraging each other from afar. The bond they forged during those pivotal weeks deepened despite the physical distance. As she worked on a new mosaic, a radiant piece honoring the unity of their community, Layla smiled at a group of children who played nearby, their laughter echoing against colorful walls. Each day was a reminder that together they had triumphed over adversity. And though Samir continued his adventures around the world, with tales of Marrakech woven into each story, they both knew this chapter marked only the beginning of something beautiful and lasting. One day soon, he promised to return, not as a stranger, but as part of a shared journey toward brighter horizons together.
you ask your boss about career advancement, but he tells you that with the
And that should be the end of it. Okay.
End of story.
That is our romance story. That was okay, I guess. I don't know. I don't watch or listen to a lot of romance, so.
Starting
Up
a new
next
story
is
in 10 seconds.
mystery.
current budget, you'll have to put a pin in it until after they can get their ducks in a row trying to accelerate profits and maximize shareholder value in the long term. But if you wanted to, you could double-click on the issue to circle back in a month to drill down, but really not to try and boil the ocean to get this full.
In the heart of Eldermoor, a quaint village nestled between rolling hills and murky woodlands, an unsettling event shattered its tranquil existence. The mid-September sky glowed a muted orange as the last rays of sunlight faded behind thick clouds. In this idyllic setting, aglow with autumn's first whispers, stood the aged Hargrove Manor, an eccentric estate shrouded in legends of hidden treasures and long-forgotten secrets. At the center of our tale is Clara Thornfield, an inquisitive journalist known for her insatiable curiosity and sharp wit. With chestnut hair pulled back into a neat bun and round glasses perched on her nose, she was often seen scribbling notes at the local cafe or chasing down leads across Eldermoor's cobblestone streets. Joining Clara is Detective Remington Hayes, a seasoned investigator with a knack for solving complex cases. He has silver-streaked hair that adds to his rugged charm, and eyes like cold steel that miss nothing. Having recently relocated to Eldermore for a quieter life after decades in bustling cities, he feels reluctantly drawn back into chaos when word spreads that Lord Percival Hargrove had vanished without a trace from his own mansion. The air buzzes with rumors. Whispers of hidden passages within Hargrove Manor swirl through town as Clara and Remington decide to team up to unravel this perplexing mystery before it swallows them whole. Waiting 15 seconds for new ideas. As Clara and Remington approach the towering oak doors of Hargrove Manor, a chill seemed to seep from the wood, as if the house itself was holding its breath. The grand entrance opened into a dimly lit foyer adorned with cobwebs that hung like ghostly drapes from the ceiling. Dust danced in the beams of dying sunlight, filtering through tall stained glass windows, casting eerie shadows across the once opulent marble floor. "Let's split up," Clara suggested, her voice low but filled with determination. "I'll check the library. It was said to have an extensive collection on Eldermore's history. There might be clues hidden in plain sight." Remington nodded, his gaze scanning their surroundings. "I'll investigate Lord Hargrove's study." He motioned towards a heavy wooden door at the end of the hall, intricately carved with symbols that hinted at forgotten lore. They parted ways, both acutely aware of the unnerving silence enveloping them. As Clara perused ancient tomes filled with dusty pages crammed with yellowing parchment, she felt an inexplicable presence linger just behind her shoulder, the kind that makes your skin prickle. Meanwhile, Remington cracked open the study door and stepped inside. The air grew thick and tense. He found himself surrounded by half-empty crystal decanters and papers strewn across a massive oak desk. It was here he discovered something intriguing. A ledger marked "Confidential." Scrutinizing its contents could lead them down paths they never anticipated. If only they could navigate Hargrove Manor's mysteries alive.
Can they not?
Waiting 15 seconds for new ideas. As Clara's fingers combed through the library's shelves, she stumbled upon a weathered book bound in cracked leather with a title embossed in faded gold, "Legends of Eldermore." It felt oddly warm against her skin as she opened it. The pages revealed tales of hidden treasures and spectral figures believed to guard them, myths that had long captivated the villagers' imaginations. One particular passage caught her eye. A legend about a mournful spirit said to roam the halls of Hargrove Manor, seeking retribution for unfulfilled promises. Meanwhile, in the study, Remington's pulse quickened as he leafed through the ledger. Entries detailing suspicious transactions stitched together like fragmented pieces of a jigsaw puzzle. One entry stood out: the last recorded payment made to an unidentified party just days before Lord Hargrove's disappearance. The chilling realization dawned on him. There was more than one party interested in Hargrove's fate. Just then, Clara burst into the study, breathless and wide-eyed. "Remington, look what I found!" She held up the tome triumphantly, but faltered as Remington gestured for silence. "Did you hear that?" he whispered, tension radiating from his body. A faint rustling echoed from somewhere deeper within the manor. A sound too deliberate to be the wind or mere coincidence. The air thickened with anticipation as both detectives exchanged tense glances. They knew they weren't alone. Something or someone lurked within those shadowy walls, some unsettling presence entwined with their investigation, watching, waiting. Waiting 15 seconds for new ideas. As Clara and Remington edged toward the source of the noise, a chill ran down their spines. A corridor stretched before them, dimly lit by flickering sconces that appeared to be struggling against some unseen force. Each step felt heavier than the last as they drew closer to an ornate door at the end of the hallway. Its carved surface marred, as if clawed at by restless hands. Clara's heart raced, fueled by a mixture of fear and determination. This must lead to the inner sanctum, where Hargrove kept his most guarded secrets, she whispered, barely able to contain her excitement. Remington nodded, but remained cautious. We need to keep our guard up. Suddenly, with a loud creak that echoed like thunder in their ears, the door swung open on its own accord. They froze for a moment before steeling themselves and stepping over the threshold into a room layered in ominous shadows. The walls were lined with portraits that seemed to follow their movements, a gallery of stern visages staring down from centuries long past. In the center stood an ancient mirror framed in gold leaf, the only other object besides crates stacked carelessly around it. As Clara approached, compelled by an instinct she couldn't quite understand, she caught her reflection looking back, yet it was different. A sorrowful visage wearing Lord Hargrove's expression. Clara, don't touch it! Remington warned too late. She reached out toward the glass just as an icy wind swept through the chamber with bone-chilling force. A sound of distant whispers grew louder, a cacophony that crescendoed around them until one voice rose above all others. Release me! Despite every ounce of logic urging her away from danger, Clara felt drawn closer to this spectral figure trapped within its glimmering confines. Before she could pull herself back in terror, darkness enveloped them both as time itself seemed suspended at that very moment, and everything trembled on the brink of revelation and doom.
Only one who can convince the board to make you a department head is you.
My fucking hands are sweaty as hell.
Waiting 15 seconds for new ideas. As Clara's fingers brushed the surface of the ancient mirror, a surge of cold energy blasted through her veins. The room darkened, and shadows writhed like tormented spirits seeking escape. Clara! Remington shouted as he lunged forward, grasping her wrist just in time to pull her back. The moment his fingers closed around her, the whispers turned into wails. A chorus of anguished cries that echoed throughout the manor. Lord Hargrove's spirit materialized in swirling mist above them, capturing both their gazes with desperate eyes filled with sorrow and regret. I am bound by betrayal, the voice lamented. Two souls played against me. I can only find peace if justice is served. Understanding dawned on Remington. He glanced at Clara, then back at the spectral figure. They realized they needed to unearth the truth behind Hargrove's mysterious dealings, expose those who had wronged him before his demise. With newfound determination coursing through them, Clara clutched her notepad tightly, while Remington retrieved the ledger from his pocket. Together they documented everything. Names of accomplices, details of schemes long hidden beneath layers of deception. As dawn broke over Eldermore, casting golden rays through shattered windows like hope, piercing despair, an extraordinary transformation took place. The spirit's sorrow began to lift. Thank you, Lord Hargrove murmured as his form slowly faded away into ethereal light. Finally freed from earthly ties, he left behind a whisper, "You have my gratitude." With that farewell echoing in their hearts and clarity settling over their minds, Clara and Remington emerged once more into the fresh morning air, resolved to bring justice where it was due, and restore peace to Eldermore once and for all. And so they did, unraveling every thread of deceit until there was nothing left but truth shining brightly where darkness had reigned too long.
So are they just getting evidence from a ghost? Is that what is happening right?
Waiting 15 seconds for new ideas.
Ah, shit.
In the weeks that followed, Eldermore buzzed with a sense of renewal. Clara and Remington's tenacity bore fruit. They unveiled Lord Hargrove's nefarious partners, who were promptly arrested for their roles in his disappearance and subsequent betrayal. Peace returned to the village as residents began to reclaim their stories overshadowed by fear. The manor, once a foreboding relic of despair, was transformed into a historical site thanks to Clara's articles highlighting its rich heritage. Remington found solace in his new role as the village's chief investigator, fostering trust within the community and restoring safety. As autumn leaves fell gently outside her window, Clara reflected on how one story intertwined their fates, an adventure she would cherish forever. She had discovered not only hidden truths, but also an unexpected friendship with Remington, a bond forged through shared purpose and courage. With the memory of Lord Hargrove's spirit now a fond recollection rather than a haunting presence, both Clara and Remington looked forward to new adventures in Eldermore, determined to illuminate whatever shadows lay ahead. Together, they ventured boldly into brighter tomorrows.
Man, I'm not sure this was much of a mystery, so much as another horror movie or show. I don't know. I'm wondering if it's using the history of, we just had an adventure, we just did a horror, so now we're also going to put in another ghost because that's in memory. I don't know.
Starting a new story in 10 seconds.
What is next? Dark fantasy. I kind of want to pause. I want to hear the dark fantasy. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to stop this for a moment. We're going to put on something I care much about. How about historical fiction with time travel? Sure, something a little redonkulous. Basically Doctor Who. But who knows? Probably worse. Commas are in place. Cool. I'm going to let this go. I'm going to step away for a couple moments. Got pause there. Oh, what is happening? Is everything okay on my screen? Maybe I'll double check that. Also put on some damn music like I was going to do a minute ago. Pull this shit up already. So I didn't realize there's a lot of shit I didn't realize. Yeah, that's all viewable. God damn it. Well, let's go to the BRB screen. Actually, let's go to the game cap screen. Pick up, get to work, please. Sweet. Better, but much better. And now I can do other things without worrying about leaking all my shit. Oh, that means I fucking showed everyone my goddamn YouTube analytics. Didn't I? Oh, no, because middle screen wasn't being captured. Good kid. Delete these two upcoming. Please get rid of those for me. Thank you. Is Ludwig playing the new Jump King yet? Or it looks like he's playing Mario. Is this like Jump King Mario? I have no idea what's happening with that. I'm just gonna let it go. Cool. A little bit music. Over here. That should be good. All right, I'm just gonna hit the BRB screen, and I'll get a story going. Did I not do the very thing I came to? Yep. I'm really bad at that sometimes. Sorry, it's difficult for me to do the basic things ever since fucking. Cool, cool. All right, that's going. I'll be back.
In the heart of a fog-laden London in 1889, where gas lamps flickered like stars on Earth, two unlikely companions found themselves tangled in the threads of time. Eliza Harrow, an astute yet unassuming librarian with a penchant for adventure novels and disheveled hair that hinted at dreams too wild to harness, had often lost herself among the dusty tomes of her beloved library. She yearned for excitement beyond the pages, but never expected to find it within the shelves themselves. Her companion, Marcus Blackwell, a dapper inventor clad in a tailored waistcoat and spectacles perched precariously upon his nose, was driven by ambition and curiosity. Known for his innovative contraptions, he harbored dreams of creating something truly extraordinary, a device that could bend the very fabric of time. When Eliza stumbled upon an ancient book concealed behind a false wall in the library, a manuscript detailing forgotten alchemical formulas, both their lives changed forever. The final line promised the means to traverse epochs. Hesitant yet exhilarated, they activated Marcus's prototype time machine just as midnight tolled. The room erupted with blinding light as they were catapulted backward through ages long past. But as they emerged into the tumultuous streets of revolutionary France, whispers of danger surfaced. Historical events began shifting around them as if unsettled by their presence. Would they be able to return home before history unraveled completely? This fleeting moment sparked both their adventurous hearts and deep-rooted fears. Waiting 15 seconds for new ideas. The air crackled with the tension of rebellion. As Eliza and Marcus stepped into the cobblestone chaos of Paris, they were greeted by the aroma of freshly baked bread, mingling with smoke rising from distant barricades. The tremors of revolution pulsated around them. Passionate voices cried out for liberty, while shadows leaped in frantic dance under the flickering torchlight. "Marcus, we need to find a safe place," Eliza urged, her heart racing with both fear and exhilaration. We can't draw attention. She clutched his arm as they ducked into a narrow alleyway shrouded in darkness. Shadows loomed over them. A trio of revolutionaries brandishing muskets caught sight of their strange attire. Each was dressed in subtle hues. One wore an elegant tricolor cockade pinned deftly onto a worn coat, while another's face revealed determination smeared with soot. "What manner of costumes are these?" one demanded, eyes narrowing suspiciously. In that heartbeat, Eliza felt the weight of their predicament pressing down like iron chains. "We are performers," she blurted out, improvising desperately. "From London, here to celebrate your fight for freedom." The men exchanged glances filled with intrigue, but skepticism lingered thick in the air. One lifted his musket slightly before releasing it reluctantly. Perhaps he believed there could be more to their tale than met the eye. Would their impromptu ruse endure, or would history catch up with them before they had a chance to uncover how to return home?
You're not supposed to ask questions.
Waiting 15 seconds for new ideas. The revolutionaries, intrigued but wary, lowered their weapons. "Performers?" the leader scoffed, his voice rough as gravel before softening with curiosity. "What makes you think we would waste time on your fanciful tales when our very lives hang in the balance?" Eliza's mind raced. "We bring news from across the channel, stories of triumph," she declared, her voice steady despite the turmoil within her. "Your cause inspires many. Join us for a performance in honor of your struggle. We can rally support." Marcus stepped forward hesitantly, sensing an opportunity to weave science into art and history. "Perhaps we could demonstrate an aurora? A spectacle such as you've never seen." He gestured grandly, drawing upon memories of glittering lights from his studies. The trio eyed them skeptically, but murmurs of interest flickered around them like fireflies at dusk. The leader stroked his beard thoughtfully. "A show?" he mused, glancing at his companions who seemed equally captivated by this strange proposal. As they debated the merit of Eliza's suggestion, the ground beneath them trembled. A distant rumble heralding increasing unrest among their fellow revolutionaries gathered en masse nearby. An explosion shattered the night air with a deafening roar, sending debris spiraling down like falling stars. "Time is running out," Eliza whispered urgently, as window to create an escape was narrowing with each moment they lingered in this precarious reality. Failure meant being ensnared by fate's unyielding grip, or worse, altering history forever. Waiting 15 seconds for new ideas. As the echoes of the explosion faded into an unsettling silence, Eliza felt a surge of dread wash over her. The revolutionaries' expressions transformed from curiosity to alarm, understanding now that their world was teetering on the edge of chaos. "We must hurry," she urged, grabbing Marcus by the arm. "If they sense we're not what we claim to be," before she could finish, a loud crash reverberated through the alley as a thick plume of smoke billowed toward them, blurring their surroundings. People screamed in terror as flames danced hungrily along nearby buildings, illuminating faces filled with fear and determination. "To the square!" shouted the revolutionary leader, his eyes blazing with resolve even amidst panic. "We need all able bodies." In that moment of urgency, Eliza and Marcus exchanged glances filled with unspoken fears. Their ruse had escalated beyond mere performance. Now it held grave consequences if they failed to uphold their facade. The group charged through twisting streets alive with discordant shouts and rallying cries for freedom. Each step pulled them deeper into a web woven from threads of fate. Fireworks erupted above like celebratory sparks, but bore witness only to impending doom. Marcus, we have to work quickly. Eliza grasped his wrist tightly as they rounded a corner just ahead of advancing soldiers clad in ominous uniforms. Suddenly caught between overwhelming forces, a frenzied throng clamoring for rebellion and the relentless march of authority. Eliza's heart raced furiously against her chest as uncertainty threatened to swallow them whole instead of Marque. But hope shimmered faintly before them. Atop a makeshift platform loomed an ancient bell tower, the very perch from which they might unleash Marcus's dazzling aurora upon anxious hearts below. Yet time was running short. Waiting 15 seconds for new ideas. As they reached the base of the bell tower, Eliza spotted a staircase winding up into the shadows. "We need to get to the top!" she shouted over the chaos. With quickened steps, they ascended into the night, Marcus clutching his device tightly like a lifeline. Upon reaching the summit, they were greeted by an expansive view of chaotic streets below. The revolutionaries surged forward, vibrant colors gleaming against darkness as they fought for their cause. But despair loomed. Just beyond them marched stern soldiers prepared to quash rebellion at any cost. "Now's our chance," Marcus declared breathlessly, setting to work on his contraption. A fusion of brass and gears that hummed with latent energy, Eliza steadied herself beside him, adrenaline coursing through her veins as she called out toward the gathering crowd below. "People of Paris, look above! Witness what unites us across time!" Marcus activated his device just as sparks ignited in brilliant hues across the night sky. Waves of shimmering light poured forth like auroras, illuminating frozen moments in time. Images of hope and resistance intertwined with glimpses from Eliza's own era. People standing together against oppression as Prussians. The sight stirred emotions within every soul gathered below. Awe washed over them, intertwining with their rallying cries for liberty. The profound connection sparked unity among revolutionaries and common folks. Their fight suddenly felt not merely localized, but echoed throughout history. As cheers erupted amid newfound determination, Marcus and Eliza exchanged triumphant smiles. This moment was theirs, where dreams met reality in a beautiful collision born from courage and belief. With history illuminated before them, they realized it was time to return home. The time machine pulsed invitingly nearby. They activated it one last time as memories swirled around them. But this leap would take only them back while preserving all their newfound connections, forged beneath that glorious shared aurora. Time wove its intricate tapestry back into place without consequence. Thus entwined in fate's hands, from two odd companions venturing through epochs, they emerged forever transformed, yet resolutely untouched by discord. And so Eliza returned to her library shelves, adorned with dust, but now imbued with stories forged anew, while Marcus dived headfirst into his studies of invention, undeterred by failures past. Etched indelibly upon their hearts remained Paris's resounding echoes, of hope shining brightly against adversity, a tale woven deep within time itself.
One more part in this. And then I will
Waiting 15 seconds for
do
new ideas.
another. I have to just switch the categories around completely. Make
Years later, in a quaint little library nestled in the heart of London, Eliza Harrow stood behind the circulation desk, her hair now streaked with silver but still free-spirited and wild. The whispers of history had settled within her soul, enriching her tales of adventure as she regaled children and adults alike. One rainy afternoon, while sifting through donations, she unwrapped an old, leather-bound book that smelled of aged parchment. Inside was a note penned by Marcus Blackwell himself. His latest invention celebrated not only their journey through time, but also the bonds forged in moments of courage. With each passing day, Eliza shared stories inspired by that incredible night, how a group once divided fought for a common cause illuminated by hope, a testament to resilience across epochs, uniting even the most disparate souls. As she glanced out at the rain-soaked streets beyond her library's window, laughter erupted from a nearby gathering where revolutionary plays were performed anew. A sense of warmth enveloped her. Though time passed inexorably forward, those vibrant memories shimmered eternally within her heart, their adventure forever woven into the tapestry of history. End of story.
groovy. That was a good one. I liked it. All right, let me switch things around a little bit here.
Starting a new story in 10 seconds.
Okay. Let's do science fiction. Fuck. All right. Science fiction. We'll do dark fantasy. And then we'll do lighthearted fantasy because it's an abomination to God. Then we'll do Lovecraftian horror. Then tragedy. See if this thing can actually kill off some people. And I think that's for them. Sure, all my commas are in place. White space. Groovy. Boot her back up. Just over an hour. I seem to be pretty high. I'm killing it right now, honestly. I just feel like. Cool. There we go.
In the year 2142, amidst the sprawling cityscape of New Nova Haven, where gleaming skyscrapers pierced the indigo sky and neon lights flickered like stars trapped on Earth, existed a hidden world that thrived beneath the surface. The underground was home to those who rejected the oppressive technological advancements controlled by corporate dominion, an all-powerful conglomerate that manipulated society through its innovations. Our main characters, Lyra Voss and Felix Cade, emerged from this shadowy realm. Lyra, with her dark emerald eyes and cropped silver hair speckled with bioluminescent tattoos that glowed faintly under dim light, was an expert hacker known for her uncanny ability to breach corporate databases. Her fierce determination masked a tumultuous past filled with loss. The disappearance of her younger brother during one of Dominion's experiments haunted her every decision. Felix stood beside her as both partner and adrenaline junkie. Tall and athletic, he had untamed chestnut curls cascading down his back. They were often tied hastily into loose knots as he zipped around on his hoverboard. His charm belied a deeper vulnerability. His sister fell victim to government-sanctioned cybernetic enhancements gone wrong, as tensions escalated between the underground and corporate dominion over a dangerous new technology capable of controlling minds. Lyra discovered clues regarding her brother's fate hidden in virtual realms. Conflicted but resolute, she embarked on a perilous mission alongside Felix that would either save countless lives or plunge them deeper into darkness. Waiting 15 seconds for new ideas. The streets of New Nova Haven were a cacophony of vibrant chaos, where graffiti-laden walls whispered tales of rebellion and despair. Lyra adjusted her visor, the sophisticated HUD illuminating encrypted data streaming across her peripheral vision. "We need to access the Dominion's central server," she murmured, glancing at Felix as they crouched behind a crumbling concrete barricade. Felix nodded, eyes narrowed in concentration. They had found a lead, a coded message buried within the digital archives that hinted at an underground facility rumored to hold captured citizens undergoing horrific experiments. "If we get in there and find evidence," he said with fervor, "we can expose them." They maneuvered through narrow alleys as patrol drones buzzed overhead like mechanical wasps. A low hum of electric pulses could be felt beneath their feet. An eerie reminder that technology was all around them, watching. Suddenly, from the alley's mouth emerged a figure cloaked in tattered garments, their mentor, known only as Oracle. Lithe and enigmatic with long flowing gray hair framed by an ethereal glow, she approached with urgency etched on her weathered face. "Time is running out," she warned gravely. "The Dominion is aware of your intentions. They've dispatched enforcers to eliminate any threats." Lyra's heart raced. Fear mingled with resolve as she considered the stakes now higher than ever. She grabbed Felix's wrist tightly, whispering fiercely, "We have to move before it's too late." Waiting 15 seconds for new ideas. With a determined nod, Felix took the lead, guiding Lyra through a maze of alleyways and dimly lit passages, until they reached an abandoned subway station. The underground platform was coated in dust, remnants of long-forgotten travelers. Flickering lights pulsed erratically overhead, casting elongated shadows that danced along the graffiti-clad walls. Lyra set her visor to scan for structural weaknesses in the crumbling concrete surrounding them. "There has to be an access point somewhere," she muttered, tracing patterns on the cold wall with her fingers. Just as she began to lose hope, she noticed something glimmering beneath layers of grime, a maintenance hatch slightly ajar. "Over here!" She gestured excitedly to Felix, before sliding down into the darkness below. The air was thick and stagnant as they descended into the utility tunnel's chilling embrace. Lyra pulled out a small flashlight, its beam piercing through the murky gloom. As they moved further in, they heard faint echoes. A voice drifting through the void. "No, please, I can't take it anymore." It was anguished and desperate. Time seemed to freeze around them. Lyra stiffened with recognition. Those were unmistakably her brother's cries. With renewed urgency coursing through her veins, she urged Felix forward into what lay ahead, hoping against hope that they could save him before it was too late. Unbeknownst to them, shadows crept closer. Enforcers on their trail only moments behind.
This shit's hard right here. This is the hardest shit in the game so far. God damn.
Waiting 15 seconds for new ideas. The echo of desperate pleas grew louder as they navigated the labyrinthine tunnels, their pulsing footsteps the only sounds resonating against cold metal. Lyra's heart thudded in syncopation with each step, her determination pushing her forward. "We're getting close," she whispered fervently to Felix, whose expression reflected both dread and resolve. Suddenly, a blaring alarm shattered the stillness, a signal that the enforcers had closed in on them. The dim lights overhead transitioned from flickering yellow to a menacing red, bathing their surroundings in an ominous hue. "They've found us!" Felix shouted, panic creeping into his voice. In response, Lyra willed herself to think clear amidst the chaos. She had been prepared for this very moment, her mind racing through possible escape routes while adrenaline surged through her system. They rounded a corner and came upon a fortified door sealed tight with electronic locks, a likely access point to where her brother was being held. With trembling fingers, Lyra pulled out her hacking gear and began working on breaching the security protocols displayed across her visor. Lines of code flashed furiously before her eyes as she fought against time and against Dominion's defenses that were now scrambling to neutralize them. "Come on, we don't have much time," Felix urged anxiously, glancing over his shoulder at shadows slithering down the hall towards them. Just as she cracked open one layer of encryption, footsteps thundered closer. A group of enforcers storming toward them with metallic boots clanging like war drums. Heart pounding away at any rational thought left within her mind, Lyra
That shit
felt
right there is crazy.
desperation clawing at her throat. With a final burst of ingenuity fueled by sheer willpower, she declared loudly enough
Pray to
for
God it
Felix
works
to
out
hear over
indeed.
the cacophony. "I'm almost there! Just hold them off!" As he nodded fiercely and took position near the entrance, readying himself for confrontation, Lyra's fingers danced across circuits, frantically trying to save everything, their mission, their lives, and hopefully rescue what remained of family lost in darkness. The heavy door clicked open just as shadows loomed nearer, but nothing prepared either of them for what awaited inside that threshold. Waiting 15 seconds for new ideas.
That's such a tight jump.
With a final decisive click, the door swung open, revealing a stark white room that pulsated with cold fluorescent lights. Inside, Lyra's heart dropped as she beheld rows of interrogation tables lined with restrained individuals, faces staring blankly, their vitality seemingly drained. But in the far corner stood her brother, Aiden, his once vibrant blue eyes dulled and vacant. "Lyra," he gasped upon seeing her, struggling against his restraints, desperation etched across his face. "Hold on! I'm coming!" Lyra shouted as she dashed inside, slamming the door shut behind them just as Felix stepped in front to fend off the encroaching enforcers. While Felix held them at bay with agile maneuvers and deft dodges, Lyra rushed to her brother's side. She swiftly dismantled the device binding him, a sinister apparatus pulsing ominously along his temples. As soon as Aiden was free, she pulled him into an embrace filled with warmth but shadowed by fear. All those memories, they tried to erase them, he murmured weakly against her shoulder. "Not anymore. We'll fix this," she responded fiercely, an ember of hope igniting within her chest. Just then, Felix burst through the door, panting heavily but resolute. "We have to go now!" As they fled through winding corridors pursued by furious shouts from Dominion's enforcers, a sudden explosion erupted behind them, the result of Felix's clever diversionary tactics, utilizing EMP devices he'd hidden away. They emerged into the glowing twilight above ground just as sirens blared. But freedom awaited at their feet, with Aiden leaning on Lyra for support and Felix beside them guiding their escape route toward the underground haven where falsehoods crumbled under truth's light. They ran towards destiny hand in hand. Together they would expose corporate dominion once and for all. What lay ahead would not be easy. However, hearts rekindled in unity would ensure something greater than vengeance. It brought hope back from shadows long since cast aside into brilliant dawn, breaking anew over New Nova Haven's horizon.
It's getting a little too poetic. Also, this story seems kind of fucked up.
Waiting 15 seconds for new ideas.
You have got to be kidding me. Is that for real then? Huh. Can you just,
In the months that followed their daring escape, Lyra, Felix, and Aiden became symbols of resistance against corporate dominion. The three forged an alliance with other factions in the underground, banding together to share their story and expose the truth hidden behind corporate facades. With unparalleled courage and determination, they broadcast evidence of Dominion's atrocities hackers, skimming through security protocols while citizens rallied in protest above ground. Public outrage ignited like wildfire. Voices united, demanding accountability for years of oppression. Facing mounting pressure, corporate dominion finally crumbled under scrutiny. Investigations unveiled a network of corruption that spanned decades, leading to the arrest of numerous high-ranking officials. As sovereignty was restored to New Nova Haven's citizens, Lyra found solace in knowing her brother had begun healing from his trauma, surrounded by loved ones. Together again, they continued to fight for those still affected by tyranny. Their resolve, strengthened by family, reunited amidst chaos, transformed into hope. Though scars remained a testament to struggles faced, they thrived now as beacons shining brightly across a city reborn in freedom. A lasting reminder that unity could conquer even the darkest shadows.
well, goddamn.
End of
I
story.
didn't hear that whole story, but it seemed kind of weak. Little messed up. What's next? Oh yeah, dark fantasy. Well, this probably won't be too much
Starting
better.
a new story in 10 seconds. In the shadow of the ancient, gnarled trees at the edge of Eldergrove Forest, a twisted village lay cloaked in perpetual twilight. The air was thick with mystery, as if secrets whispered through the leaves and crept into every corner of life within its borders. The villagers navigated their days cautiously, knowing that darkness often brought forth creatures born from nightmares. Among them lived Lysandra, a gifted herbalist with hair as dark as midnight wrapped in raven feathers. Her emerald eyes sparkled with both determination and dread, for she alone had noticed strange occurrences in Eldergrove, plants wilting overnight and shadows slinking just out of sight. She sensed a malignant force reaching into their world. Across the village lived Eirik, a brooding blacksmith whose scarred hands bore witness to his struggles against the weight of family legacy. Adorned with faded tattoos that told of battles long forgotten, he felt an inexplicable connection to something lurking deeper within the forest, a heartbeat that pulsed like his own. As ominous storms gathered overhead, choking the last bits of sunlight from the sky, whispers circulated among the frightened villagers. Children were disappearing one by one, with fear tightening around them like a noose. Lysandra and Eirik found themselves drawn together by fate's cruel hand. They became reluctant allies on an urgent quest to unearth what haunted their home, a conflict that would test their courage and unravel hidden truths buried deep beneath Eldergrove's roots.
I'm having a little trouble concentrating. I think I need to pause, go on the
Waiting
BRB
15
screen.
seconds for new ideas.
It's okay. I gotta step away for a moment.
Their resolve steeled, Lysandra and Eirik ventured into the heart of the Eldergrove forest, where sunlight pierced through the thick canopy like spears of hope. The atmosphere grew dense with anticipation as they navigated twisted underbrush and ancient stones laced with moss, remnants of a forgotten era. Each step echoed the unspoken fears gnawing at their hearts. "Do you feel that?" Eirik whispered, his voice barely above the rustling leaves. A shiver coursed through him as a chilling wind whipped past, carrying distant echoes. A chorus of laughter turned to screams. Lysandra nodded, her pulse quickening. She had felt it, an unseen presence watching them from just beyond sight. As they pressed forward, she plucked wild herbs along the path, hoping their potent properties would shield them if danger erupted. Soon, they stumbled upon an eerie clearing bathed in dim light. At its center stood an ancient stone altar adorned with jagged symbols that pulsed faintly, almost alive. Flowers bloomed ravenously in vibrant colors around it, yet their beauty was deceptive. Each petal seemed to hum a mournful tune. Suddenly, shadows rose from the ground, figures coalescing into haunting shapes that danced at the edges of perception. The air crackled with tension as Lysandra's voice trembled while she read aloud an incantation she found scrawled among her grandmother's notes. "By moonlight's grace and nature's root." But before she could finish, a figure emerged from behind the altar. A woman draped in tattered silk robes, whose eyes glowed like embers under ash-gray hair. She smiled with both warmth and malice. Freedom was not hers to offer nor take away. Waiting 15 seconds for new ideas. The woman's voice was a haunting melody that reverberated through the clearing. "I am Celine, guardian of this forest and keeper of its secrets," she declared, her gaze piercing through the oppressive mist that clung to the air. "You seek what you cannot comprehend." Eirik stepped forward, clutching his hammer like a shield against her ethereal charm. "People are vanishing. You know where they are." His voice cracked slightly, betraying the fear that gnawed at him. "Ah, but it is not merely their bodies," Celine responded cryptically. "They have chosen to wander, drawn by whispers from beyond these woods." Her expression shifted to one of sorrowful contemplation. "They dance upon the delicate balance between worlds." a price for their curiosity, Lysandra felt an unsettling urge to approach her, as if hypnotized by the lure in Celine's words. "What do you mean? Can we bring them back?" She fought against the pull of despair creeping into her heart. Celine beckoned them closer with a languid motion. "To understand their fate is to face your own truths," she said softly. "But beware, knowledge comes with sacrifice." As shadows danced around them, Lysandra caught glimpses of figures flickering behind Celine children, lost among whirling leaves and feasting spirits. A fleeting reminder of what was at stake. The weight of darkness enveloped them both as they stood on a precipice. Reveal long-held secrets, or risk losing everything they held dear. Waiting 15 seconds for new ideas. The air grew heavy with an oppressive silence, punctuated only by the rustling leaves, each whispering secrets of ancient sorrow. Lysandra felt her heart race as Celine's gaze bore into her soul, revealing fragments of doubt and uncertainty that had long plagued her. "Sacrifice," Irik muttered under his breath. "What must we give?" He clenched his fists, determination fueling both fear and defiance within him. The thought of losing anyone else spurred a surge of adrenaline that coursed through his veins like fire. Celine smiled knowingly, her features illuminated by flickering shadows cast around them. "Enter our realm, face your own despair," she intoned softly, before gesturing to the altar, where luminous flowers pulsated rhythmically, as though alive with energy. "Only then may you reclaim what was lost." Lysandra's voice trembled as she questioned the meaning behind those words. They were not mere riddles. They were a declaration of an inevitable truth. Their deepest fears lay coiled within that very altar. A choice loomed ahead. Dive headfirst into darkness, or retreat back into their haunted village, knowing suffering would inevitably follow. With every heartbeat echoing in the quiet clearing, Irik took a step forward towards Celine and the shimmering altar, his instincts screaming at him to turn back, while his heart urged him onward toward hope, tangled in desperation. Before he could second-guess himself, Lysandra reached out for him, a tether in stormy waters. But the moment was interrupted as tendrils of mist erupted from the ground beneath them. Shadows twisted wildly around their feet like hungry serpents, grasping for warmth and life itself. Waiting 15 seconds for new ideas. With a sudden burst of resolve, Irik stepped onto the altar's surface, his feet resting upon the pulsing flowers that emanated warm light. As he did so, a surge of energy surged through him. Images flooding his mind, children laughing, their innocent joy echoing in treetops now shrouded by sorrow. He could feel their essence trapped somewhere between worlds, and knew he had no choice. Lysandra followed suit, placing her hand on his shoulder as if drawing strength from their bond. The altar began to glow brighter, casting away shadows that clawed at them desperately. Celine watched with an inscrutable expression, neither encouraging nor forbidding them to compare. "Confront your shadows," she urged softly. "Only by facing what you fear can you reclaim what is lost." With every heartbeat resonating like war drums in the depths of their souls, they focused on their fears, the darkness threatening to swallow Eldergrove whole. Irik thought of family legacy and expectations weighing down like leaden chains. Lysandra remembered
How
moments when she
fucking
felt powerless
close
against
and far all at
loss.
the same
Together,
time.
they called forth their vulnerabilities into the swirling mist surrounding them. A brilliant wave of collective courage bursting forth as ethereal tendrils wrapped around them soothingly rather than aggressively. In unison, they cried out for the lost children to return home where love awaited, but simultaneously accepting that letting go might be necessary for healing. As if answering their plea, flickering visions materialized within the mist, ghostly figures rising before retreating toward freedom's embrace. Their laughter resonated sweetly above newfound clarity, filling both Eirik and Lysandra with a final shimmer and sigh that swept through Eldergrove Forest like gentle wind through trees. Peace returned to fractured hearts, and life flourished anew beneath ancient branches once more. The residual ache remained but sparked growth beyond despair. They had faced darkness together and emerged stronger. A fragile yet powerful resilience woven from
Son of
loss
a bitch.
transformed into hope. A testament to those who never truly left home after all. Waiting 15 seconds for new ideas. In the wake of that fateful day in Eldergrove Forest, life flourished again within the village. The children who had vanished returned with laughter echoing through the streets, their eyes glittering with stories of wonder and adventure beyond the veil. Lysandra became a beacon of healing, her herbal remedies imbued with newfound power and a deep understanding of life's fragile balance. Eirik stood steadfast at his forge, shaping metal with an artistry that echoed his resilience. His heart swelled as he crafted mementos for families grateful to hold their children close once more. Together, he and Lysandra forged a bond deeper than friendship. They intertwined their lives like vines, seeking sunlight, supporting one another in both joy and sorrow. Celine remained ever watchful over Eldergrove, from her ethereal perch among the trees. Although she chose to linger in twilight shadows, her heart felt lighter knowing that life continued to flourish where darkness once prevailed. Time flowed gently now through the village, weaving threads of renewal into every soul, reminders that hope can bloom even after despair's darkest hour has passed. End of story. Starting a new story in 10 seconds. In the whimsical realm of Puddlebrook, where the trees wore hats made of mushrooms and rivers giggled as they flowed, lived a quirky band of friends. At the heart of this merry place was Tilly, a sprightly fairy with iridescent wings that shimmered like molten glass. She loved mischief almost as much as she loved her pet snail, Sir Slimy, who had an impressive talent for slow-motion cartwheels. Across the village square stood Grimblebottom's Shop of Oddities, run by none other than Grimblebottom himself, a rotund gnome whose beard boasted more colors than a rainbow. He couldn't resist telling tales about his curious wares, enchanted keys that could unlock laughter, or jars filled with whispers from forgotten dreams. One sunny morning, Tilly found herself in quite the pickle when she discovered that all the giggles from the rivers were mysteriously vanishing. Without their joyous sounds, Puddlebrook was growing quieter and gloomier by the day. Determined to restore laughter to her beloved home, Tilly enlisted Sir Slimy's help and ventured into Grimblebottom's shop for advice. But what awaited them was no ordinary quest. An ancient riddle must be solved. Little did Tilly know that unraveling it would lead them down twists and turns they never imagined. Adventures just waiting to unfold. waiting 15 seconds for new ideas. Grimblebottom, his eyes twinkling with mischief, leaned across the counter. "Ah, my dear Tilly, to restore laughter to Puddlebrook, you must find the Giggle Grain, an elusive treasure hidden deep within the mirthful maze." He opened a dusty tome filled with illustrations of comical creatures and labyrinthine paths. Tilly's heart raced. The mirthful maze? But isn't that where all those pratfalling pixies dwell? Indeed, Grimblebottom chuckled heartily. But worry not, they simply delight in silly pranks. Your best bet is to follow your nose. Or rather, he winked at Sir Slimy, who was now doing an impressive backflip. Follow Sir Slimy's slimy trail. With determination sparkling in her eyes, Tilly thanked Grimblebottom and set off for the maze. The sun overhead blazed brightly as trees began to twist into eccentric shapes, their trunks swaying like dancers. As she approached the entrance of the maze, a gaping mouth shaped like a laughing face, her excitement mingled with trepidation. Inside, giggles echoed faintly along winding paths lined with pastel flowers that seemed to giggle themselves. Suddenly, from behind a bush adorned with bouncing bunnies, two mischievous pixies appeared, Wobble and Gilda. They danced in midair while tossing glittering confetti everywhere. "What brings a fairy and her sluggish sidekick here?" Wobble teased as he somersaulted atop a nearby mushroom. "We're on a mission for laughter," Tilly declared bravely but nervously. Gilda crossed her arms dramatically. "Well then, I hope you can outsmart us because we have no intention of letting you pass without some fun first." Waiting 15 seconds for new ideas.
Hey there, champ. I've noticed you've been falling quite a lot.
Wobble floated closer, a playful glint in his eyes. "We challenge you to a series of ridiculous games. Win, and we'll guide you to the Giggle Grain. Lose, well, let's just say our pranks can get quite sticky." Tilly swallowed hard but nodded with resolve. "Fine, I accept your challenge." Sir Slimy, ever optimistic, gave an encouraging squelch. The first game was called Tickle Tag. With a whoosh, Wobble darted off down the winding path like a firefly on caffeine. Gilda began to chase Tilly, while brandishing delicate feathers that glimmered in the sunlight. Laughter bubbled within Tilly as she zigzagged through colorful bushes. Just as Gilda lunged for her side with a feather poised for mischief, Tilly sprang behind a gigantic daffodil, giggling all the while. But before she knew it, Gilda's feather brushed against Sir Slimy's shell. "Oh no!" Tilly cried out between giggles as Sir Slimy erupted into fits of laughter so contagious that even Gilda joined in. Once their bout of laughter subsided, they moved on to the next game, Balancing Act. They had to balance various whimsical objects, a banana slipper here and an upside-down teacup there, on their heads while hopping over tiny puddles that splashed them with sparkling water. Each splash unleashed peals of joyful sound from around them. As fun ensued amidst laughs and slips, Tilly felt something shifting within her heart. The realization that this jovial moment might hold more importance than merely winning or losing. Waiting 15 seconds for new ideas. With 2 games down and mirth swirling around them, Tilly felt the stakes grow higher as Wobble announced the final challenge. Giggle Gauntlet! It involved a series of comically daunting tasks, laid out like an obstacle course through the heart of the mirthful maze. The pixies grinned mischievously, their eyes filled with mischief. Complete this gauntlet without losing your laughter, and we'll show you where the giggle grain hides, Wobble declared. But if you falter, he flicked his finger, causing foam to erupt from hidden fountains nearby, you'll be covered in sticky goo and tickled until you can't giggle anymore. Tilly took a deep breath as Sir
The fuck am I
Slimy
listening
squelched
to?
encouragingly by
Holy
her side.
shit.
Participants were lined up at the
This
starting
lighthearted
line
shit
among
is
peculiar objects. Rubber chickens
a little
that honked
too
when squeezed,
much.
giant whoopee cushions that sent them flying skyward with
I can go
each
pretty
bounce,
slow on that jump.
and balloons ready to pop with silly squeaks. As they began racing through this riotous course, Tilly's knees buckled in laughter while her heart raced fiercely. But just as she reached for a glittering feather dangling from a branch, a prize for staying on course, the wily Gilda swooped in to steal it. "No, I need that!" Tilly shouted, sweat glistening on her brow. Gilda giggled wickedly, darting away faster than she could have imagined. Underestimating herself had never been part of Tilly's plan. Adrenaline surged through her veins as she chased after Gilda, weaving past more zany obstacles filled with bouncing jelly beans and slippery marbles. But mid-chase, an ominous rumble echoed through the maze, a sound unlike any giggle or trickery before. The very ground beneath them trembled as shadows twisted amongst cheerful trees. Just ahead loomed dark storm clouds gathering above. Reality was shifting into something far more serious than mere merriment. Waiting 15 seconds for new ideas. As the storm clouds swirled ominously above, Tilly and the pixies halted in their tracks, hearts pounding. The vibrant colors of the mirthful maze dulled under the shadow's weight. With instinct guiding her amidst chaos, Tilly summoned her courage and called out to Gilda and Wobble. "We must work together! Laughter can chase away darkness!" she shouted. The pixies exchanged glances before nodding hesitantly. In that moment of unity, they joined hands with Tilly, an unlikely trio forged by whimsy and hope. Together, they hatched a plan. As one, they would unleash laughter into the very heart of the impending storm. Tilly took a deep breath, recalling Grimblebottom's wise words about joy's power. "Let's make this storm giggle," she declared. They began an impromptu performance. A medley of silly dances where Sir Slimy twirled in slow motion at their feet while Tilly executed exaggerated poses reminiscent of flailing seaweed. Gilda balanced precariously on Wobble's shoulders while both tossed rubber chickens into the air. As chuckles erupted from their throats like bubbling fountains, something miraculous happened. The dark clouds trembled before breaking apart. A cascade of light filled Puddlebrook with sparkles and warmth, overwhelming even nature itself with merriment. Suddenly, there came an ethereal chime, as fragments of giggle grain materialized from thin air, golden seeds that shimmered brightly in all hues imaginable. With wild abandon, Tilly scooped them up along with her newfound friends. With laughter restored to Puddlebrook, and joy flowing freely once more, every corner blossomed back to life. Rivers chuckled harmoniously again, while even flowers danced in delight. And so it was that through teamwork and tenacity against adversity, Tilly had not just found laughter for her home, but created lasting friendships along the way. Forever reminding everyone that sometimes joy is found most profoundly when shared together amid life's unpredictable storms. Waiting 15 seconds for new ideas. In the days that followed, Puddlebrook thrived as laughter echoed through its vibrant streets once more. Tilly and her friends became local legends, revered for their bravery in facing the darkness of the storm. The giggle grain spread throughout the village, ensuring that every river bubbled with joy and each flower bloomed brighter than before. Grimblebottom's shop of oddities flourished too, as villagers flocked to hear tales of Tilly's adventure. He even crafted a new line of enchanted trinkets, infused with fragments of giggle grain, spreading glee further beyond Puddlebrook's borders. Tilly often found herself sharing stories with Gilda and Wobble, while Sir Slimy rolled around them in delight. They hosted weekly gatherings where laughter was abundant, fostering bonds between fairies and pixies alike. And so it was that in this charming corner of the world, a profound lesson lingered. True joy thrives when shared, creating connections that withstand even the most tempestuous storms, forever reminding all who lived there to dance through life with gleeful abandon. End of story.
That was some of the worst shit I've ever heard in my entire life. Oh my God.
Starting a new story in 10 seconds.
What is this next one? Oh, Lovecraftian horror, so like the polar opposite.
In the decaying town of Eldermouth, nestled between shadowy mountains and a fog-laden bay, an unsettling quiet reigned. The townsfolk whispered about the strange occurrences that had plagued them for generations. The flickering lights of long-abandoned houses, the phantom cries echoing through the mist, and the cursed sea that seemed to draw souls into its depths. At the heart of this enigma stood Howard Prescott, an unassuming librarian with tousled chestnut hair and glasses perched precariously on his nose. His life revolved around books, vast tomes filled with history and lore. But as he uncovered ancient texts discussing eldritch beings, a growing obsession took root within him. Joining him was Madeline Norwood, an intrepid journalist whose fiery auburn hair matched her fervent ambition to uncover hidden truths. She arrived in Eldermouth searching for stories that would revive her stagnant career, but quickly found herself drawn into Howard's world of arcane knowledge and dark secrets. Their joint pursuit led them to a crumbling lighthouse at the edge of town, rumored to hold answers about an inexplicable cult that worshipped something deep beneath the waves. As night fell and storm clouds gathered ominously above, they began their descent into madness, a decision which would awaken entities better left undisturbed from their slumber. Waiting 15 seconds for new ideas. The lighthouse loomed over them like a fallen titan, its once proud structure now bent and broken, riddled with rusted metal and creeping ivy. As Howard and Madeline pushed open the door, it creaked ominously, echoing through the hollow space within. Dust motes danced in the dim beam of their flashlights as they stepped inside. They clambered up rickety stairs that spiraled upwards, guided by whispers stemming from an old journal Howard had found in the library's archives, a collection of notes left by a long-lost keeper of the lighthouse. Each entry spoke of strange rituals conducted at sea when the moon was full, sacrifices made to satisfy a lurking presence known only as the Deep One. Madeline scribbled notes furiously while her heart raced with excitement. "If this is true," she murmured, "these people believed they could control something far greater than themselves. We need to document everything." Just then, a thunderclap rattled the windows. Rain began pelting against the walls as if summoned by their trespasses into forbidden realms. Suddenly feeling observed, both turned slowly towards the narrow window facing out to sea. The water churned violently beneath a swirling darkness. A shape emerged briefly before vanishing beneath foamy waves. Madeline gasped. Howard felt cold dread grasp his chest as he realized they'd stirred something ancient and malignant sleeping just beyond sight. Something that might not want them to leave after all. Waiting 15 seconds for new ideas. Howard felt his pulse quickening as they exchanged fearful glances. "We need to leave," he whispered, voice barely carrying over the rising wind and crashing waves. But before either could move, an inhuman howl erupted outside. A cacophony of despair that seemed to vibrate through the very floorboards beneath their feet. Madeline shook her head, stubborn resolve lighting her features. "No! We can't just abandon this place now. There's something here we don't understand." Her fingers tightened around the journal, its pages flipping erratically, as if stirred by unseen hands. Then came a sudden light. A bright flash illuminating the lighthouse's spiral staircase from below. It flickered like the heartbeat of some ancient creature awakening, calling to them with ghostly whispers filled with promises and threats alike. Howard swallowed hard. He hadn't considered that their curiosity might invoke something so dangerous or malevolent. Compelled by a force beyond comprehension, they climbed higher toward the lantern room, where the beam once guided lost ships homeward. The air grew thick with tension and dread, but Madeline urged him on, each step marked by a mix of fear and fascination, drawing them closer to uncovering forgotten truths. As they reached the top, what awaited them was not only knowledge, but a glimpse into madness itself. A swirling vortex of darkness beckoned like an abyss, promising revelations yet threatening destruction. Waiting 15 seconds for new ideas. The lantern room was bathed in a ghostly blue light, emanating from the swirling vortex suspended in midair. It writhed and pulsated like a living creature, tendrils of shadow reaching out toward Howard and Madeline, whispering incoherent promises that sent shivers down their spines. The air crackled with energy as if reality itself trembled at the threshold of something far beyond their understanding. "Howard," Madeline whispered, her voice quavering despite her attempts to appear resolute. "We have to get closer, we might be able to." "No!" he interrupted, practically grabbing her arm in panic. "This is madness! We don't know what's waiting for us on the other side." His heart raced, each beat echoing loud enough to drown out the howling wind outside. But Madeline was already stepping forward, entranced by both fear and curiosity. As she reached out towards the luminous void, shadows coiled around them with a malevolent hunger. A cold gust surged through the room, slamming the door shut behind them with a resounding thud that echoed ominously through the lighthouse. "Madeline!" Howard shouted as he stumbled back against the wall. Panic clawed at his chest like talons rending flesh. He felt helpless against this strange pull that seemed to draw them toward despair. And yet there was an unyielding allure fueling her reckless courage. Suddenly, a deafening roar erupted from below. The sound of waves crashing violently against rocks combined with an unnatural shriek resonating deep within their bones. The lighthouse trembled underfoot as if it were alive. Merely an expendable vessel for something ancient awakening beneath its foundations, they stood at the precipice between worlds. One filled with light and promise, Another steeped in darkness that beckoned relentlessly like sirens calling sailors to shipwrecks of old. In those frantic seconds stretching into eternity, a choice loomed above them. Waiting 15 seconds for new ideas.
That's the same spot I fucked it up before. I really got to be more careful there.
Howard lunged forward, grabbing Madeline's arm just as she reached the threshold of the swirling vortex. Panic surged through him. He could feel darkness clawing at his consciousness, ready to pull them both into a void from which no one returned. "We can't go in!" he shouted over the cacophony, desperation bleeding into his voice. Madeline hesitated, her eyes flickering between longing and dread as she wrestled with her ambition. In that moment of uncertainty, Howard felt an unexpected surge of clarity. He knew they needed to escape this malevolent influence before it consumed them completely. With a sudden burst of strength, he yanked her back toward solid ground. The shadows writhed violently around them as if infuriated by their defiance. "We have to leave now," he insisted, pulling her firmly away from the brink. Together, they rushed down the spiral staircase, dodging debris shaken loose by unseen forces clamoring for their attention. The lighthouse groaned and creaked warningly around them as they descended further into chaos. The howling winds outside mingled with anguished cries that seemed to echo through time itself. Bursting out onto the rocky ledge just outside, gasping for breath under thundering skies, Howard and Madeline turned back in horror as tendrils of shadow lashed at their heels, but ultimately retreated within the crumbling lighthouse. As if thwarted by their fierce determination, they raced toward safety while rain dripped heavily from above, like tears shed for lost souls tethered to dark fates yet untold. As dawn broke on Eldermouth's horizon, a golden hue casting light upon what had been cursed, they understood. Some truths were far too dangerous to uncover. In each other's arms amidst rising sunlight and retreating storm clouds, they promised never to pursue such darkness again, and walked away forever changed but alive, tethered only to hope, rather than haunting shadows beneath restless seas. Waiting 15 seconds for new ideas. Months passed since Howard and Madeline escaped the clutches of the lighthouse in Eldermouth. The town moved on, seemingly unaffected by its own dark legacy. But they carried their experience etched into their minds. Madeline returned to journalism, not with sensational stories about eldritch horrors, but instead focusing on uplifting pieces that inspired change within her community. She found solace in sharing the resilience of ordinary folks, rather than seeking thrills from uncovering secrets best left buried. Meanwhile, Howard embraced his role at the library anew, dedicating himself to preserving local lore while ensuring that ominous tales were treated with caution. He organized community events that celebrated knowledge without invoking fear, a way to rebuild trust among wary townsfolk. Together, they forged a strong bond through their shared trauma. They often visited the beach during dawn, where sunlight kissed the waves gently rippling toward shore. Their love blossomed quietly away from darkness, a testament that even after confronting one's fears, new beginnings are possible when guided by hope and understanding. Eldermouth became a place of healing for them both. Shadows faded, not into oblivion, but transformed into light, illuminating a brighter path forward. End of story. Starting a new story in 10 seconds. In the quiet township of Hartsfield, where the streets twisted whimsically and old brick buildings leaned against each other like weary travelers, a palpable sense of foreboding filled the air. It was here that Marigold Finch, a seamstress with delicate hands and eyes the shade of stormy skies, toiled away in her humble shop. Her life revolved around thread and fabric. She created beautiful garments for others while wearing a tattered coat herself. A small tragedy whispered by every passerby. Marigold's heart belonged to Thomas Hayes, a local blacksmith whose broad shoulders bore not only the weight of iron, but also aspirations that gleamed like freshly polished steels. His laughter echoed through the cobbled streets, a sound that had become Marigold's solace amidst her lonely existence. Yet fate had carved an unforgiving path ahead for them both. The conflict arose when whispers began to circulate about an impending development project, a grand railway line set to cut through Hartsfield's very heart, their beloved town square home to generations' worth of history. With it came promises of prosperity, but at devastating costs, shifting families from their homes, uprooting lives that had grown deep roots in this soil. Marigold found herself at a crossroads. Stand against a powerful company threatening everything she loved, or lose Thomas forever as he joined those eager for progress. The weight on her heart grew heavier, with each tick of time passing in this town on the cusp of irreparable change. Waiting 15 seconds for new ideas. As the days turned into weeks, the tension in Hartsfield mounted. Thomas, with his iron tools and rough-hewn hands, had been persuaded by the townsfolk enamored with visions of new jobs and flourishing commerce. Each evening he would return home with stars in his eyes, discussing plans for a better future, while Marigold felt her heart wrench at the thought of losing everything that connected them to their past. One stormy afternoon, beneath ominously dark skies that mirrored her turmoil within, Marigold made her way to Town Hall. The old building stood resolute against nature's fury as she pushed through its heavy doors. Inside, a town meeting was erupting. Voices clashed like waves against stone as citizens debated fiercely about the railway's looming arrival. "Progress won't wait for sentimental fools," shouted John Barlow, an influential figure pushing for modernization. Marigold's breath hitched at his words. They were arrows aimed straight at her resolve, yet amidst the cacophony emerged a singular voice. Thomas stood up passionately defending Hartsfield's traditions. "This place has history. We cannot sacrifice our soul for fleeting wealth." With hope blooming faintly within her chest, yet fear clawing ferociously at it, Marigold stepped forward into view. A piercing glance exchanged between them unleashed tidal waves of love and uncertainty. A connection that spoke volumes when words escaped both their lips. What could she say to sway him from this path? How could love endure when dreams began to fracture like glass? Waiting 15 seconds for new ideas. Thomas! Marigold's voice quivered, rising above the tumult of debate. The room went still as eyes turned toward her, curiosity mixed with apprehension. She felt the weight of their gazes, but it no longer frightened her. There was something important she needed to say. With a trembling breath, she stepped further into the spotlight. We cannot allow ourselves to be swept away by illusions of progress that will only drown us in regret. Her heart raced as she searched for Thomas's gaze amidst the sea of faces. What marvel exists in steel and iron if we lose our stories along with our homes? Our artistry is here, woven through every corner of this town. A murmur rippled through those gathered seeds of doubt, planted in the confidence that had once been so unwavering. Yet Barlow wasted no time retaliating, his voice cutting through like a knife. And what will your artistry do when hunger knocks at your door? The crowd stirred uneasily. Marigold's heart sank. They were swayed by promises not yet fulfilled while clinging desperately to what could vanish overnight. But then Thomas took a step forward, his brow furrowed with contemplation rather than indignation. "What do you wish to fight for, Marigold?" he asked softly. In that moment, uncertainty hung thick between them. A fragile thread threatened by the turmoil beyond their hearts. Underscore.
I'm gonna step away for one moment.
Waiting 15 seconds for new ideas. Marigold's breath caught as Thomas's question reverberated in the charged silence. Her heart raced, pounding out a rhythm of desperation against her ribs. "I wish to fight for us, Thomas," she whispered, feeling the weight of his gaze pressing down on her like the gathering storm outside. But before she could gather her thoughts into anything more coherent, Barlow seized the moment. "What's this? A misguided woman trying to sway our future with shadows?" He laughed derisively. And that laughter was venom, a distraction meant to pull Thomas back into the embrace of ambition. "Don't let sentiment cloud your judgment," Barlow continued firmly, as murmurs ran through the crowd like electricity. "This town has suffered long enough. Do we want to remain stagnant while others move ahead?" Caught between two worlds, one full of hope and one hungry for progress, Thomas hesitated. Marigold watched as uncertainty flickered across his face, each moment stretching thin like tattered fabric pulled too tight. Gritting her teeth, Marigold pressed on. "Think about all we've built together, the memories sewn into every stitch I've made. Our dreams are not just faint echoes, they are living threads binding us to this place." As thunder rumbled ominously overhead and raindrops began pelting against the windows like frantic drumbeats, an idea sparked within her mind. Could they unite those around them? Those who cherished Hartsfield's heritage? Suddenly a voice broke through from among their neighbors. Mrs. Abernathy stepped forward boldly, a symbol of elder wisdom amidst chaos, and announced loudly to everyone gathered, "We need unity! There is strength where there is love." The air vibrated with tension. Doubt mingled with urgency as more townsfolk began stepping up, unsure but drawn toward courage blossoming within fear. Yet even amid shifting allegiances and hearts reaching for resolution under darkening skies, Marigold sensed danger creeping ever closer. An unseen hand poised over their fragile dreams, ready to strike at any moment. Waiting 15 seconds for new ideas. In that pivotal moment, as the tension crackled like static in the air, Marigold felt hope coalesced amidst chaos. With Mrs. Abernathy's rallying cry, more voices joined their cause. The elderly, the children, and even a few of Thomas's fellow blacksmiths began to rise with her in defiance against the looming threat of change. Thomas looked around at his neighbors, and then back to Marigold, his heart swelling anew with understanding. "We can forge our own future without losing what we love," he declared, raising his voice until it rang clear above all others. With newfound purpose coursing through them, townsfolk banded together in a way not seen for generations. They organized meetings filled with laughter and tears as they drafted petitions, wrote letters to distant reporters, and held candlelight vigils to raise awareness about preserving Hartsfield's uniqueness amid industrial promises. When the day came for the railway company's representatives to meet with Hartsfield citizens again, they were met not by a single voice but by an entire choir of passionate defenders ready to stand firm for their heritage. It was here that Marigold delivered her most heartfelt plea. A speech woven from love and artistry, urging preservation over construction. Overwhelmed by passionate stories shared within those gathered walls, even Barlow had no choice but to reconsider. Reluctantly acknowledging the town's spirit, their history thrumming powerfully beneath it, he agreed to plan development that respected Hartsfield's character while allowing modernization. As months passed, and spring flowers bloomed once more across familiar streets enriched by unity forged under duress, Thomas took Marigold's hand one evening, beneath twinkling stars illuminating their cherished town square. A reminder that home is found not just in places, but within hearts forever intertwined. Together they dreamt of a shared future, where progress didn't erase tradition, it embraced it instead. Waiting 15 seconds for new ideas. In the years that followed, Hartsfield flourished in a way it had never imagined possible. The railway line was constructed with respect for the town's history, elegantly curving around its original structures like a gentle embrace. New businesses opened alongside cherished shops, and the once weary brick buildings stood proud, becoming symbols of resilience. Marigold's seamstress shop became a vibrant hub where stories were shared alongside fabric swatches, each piece of clothing carrying echoes of love and tradition. Thomas continued to wield his hammer with skill, but also embraced his role as community leader, guiding efforts to preserve Hartsfield's unique charm while welcoming growth. Together, they hosted seasonal festivals celebrating art and craftsmanship that drew visitors from far beyond their borders. Laughter filled the air as children played in the town square, where couples danced under twinkling lights. An embodiment of unity blossoms from understanding and cooperation. As Marigold often remarked to those who visited her shop, true progress does not come at the cost of one's soul. Instead, it enhances life when grounded in love for one another and appreciation for shared history. In this small township, nestled between hills and valleys, both past and future thrived harmoniously side by side. End of story. Starting a new story in 10 seconds. In the year 2075, amidst the sprawling neon skyline of New London, a brilliant but disillusioned clockmaker named Elias Hawthorne unearthed a forgotten journal buried deep within the walls of his late grandfather's workshop. Its brittle pages whispered secrets of time travel, penned by an eccentric inventor who once lived in the heart of Victorian England. As Elias deciphered its intricate diagrams and formulas, his heart raced with possibility. A glimpse into history. The setting shifted as Elias activated an ancient device crafted from brass gears and shimmering crystals. In an electrifying burst of energy, he found himself standing on cobblestone streets, lined with gaslit lamps and horse-drawn carriages gliding past. The air was thick with the aroma of coal smoke and freshly baked bread from nearby bakeries. As he marveled at this vivid era, he crashed into Clara Sinclair, a feisty suffragette armed with sharp wit and fiery determination to secure women's rights. Initially frustrated by her brusque demeanor, Elias soon discovered they were both united against a looming threat, a shadowy organization determined to erase significant moments in history that could empower future generations. Together, they embarked on a perilous quest through time's tapestry, grappling not only with their budding connection, but also working to thwart forces aiming to rewrite fate itself. Waiting 15 seconds for new ideas. As Clara led Elias through the bustling market square, her sharp eyes scanned for any telltale signs of their adversaries, the Chrono Rewriters. They operate in the shadows, she explained, pulling him close to avoid a group of chattering ladies. Time is malleable. They seek to bend it to their will. Elias's heart raced as he recalled fragments from the journal diagrams, suggesting that by capturing pivotal moments, one could change history forever. He felt an electric thrill at the prospect of being part of something so monumental, yet terrifying. With every stride they took deeper into Victorian London, time itself seemed to pulse around them like a living entity. Suddenly, they spotted a hooded figure lurking near the entrance of an opulent theater known for hosting renowned productions. The figure was muttering incantations while clutching an hourglass, a sure sign that they were on the brink of manipulating time once more. "Clara," Elias breathlessly whispered, "we need to disrupt whatever ritual they're conjuring." Clara nodded resolutely. Beneath her determined facade lay apprehension about what would happen if they failed. Together, they devised a plan. Clara would create a diversion by engaging the crowd with a raucous speech, one that would inevitably attract attention, while Elias slipped past unnoticed. Heart-pounding and mind-racing with calculations gleaned from the journal's pages, he prepared himself for what awaited him inside that theater, a direct confrontation with those who sought control over time itself. Waiting 15 seconds for new ideas. As Clara stepped onto the makeshift stage amidst the crowd, her vigorous voice echoed through the theater's grand arches. "Ladies and gentlemen, the right to vote is not just a privilege, it's our birthright." Her impassioned words ignited a spark in those gathered, drawing attention away from Elias. Meanwhile, Elias slipped into the shadows of the theater, where velvet curtains hung heavy with anticipation. He crept toward an ornate door at the back, its polished brass handle glimmering like hope itself. Inside lay a dimly lit chamber filled with swirling mist that reeked of burnt rubber and metal. A colossal hourglass stood at its center, its sand glittering eerily in shades of crimson. In this sanctum, he spotted the hooded figure, a sallow-faced man whose fingers danced over strange runes etched into the air around him. With each pulse of his incantation, tendrils of dark energy stretched toward the hourglass, as if seeking to siphon life's very essence out of time itself. Elias felt dread clawing at his chest, but knew there was no turning back now. He reached for a slender tool from his belt, a delicate wrench crafted by his grandfather, and steadied himself before stepping into full view. "Stop!" he shouted. The cloaked figure froze mid-gesture and whirled around, eyes gleaming like shards of glass under flickering flames. "You dare interfere?" His voice was laced with malice, echoing ominously off the walls. Elias planted his feet firmly on the ground. "I'll stop you before you unravel history!" As Clara's fervent speech blared from outside, the crowd roaring their support. Elias braced for confrontation against forces that threatened to plunge both their worlds into chaos. But would courage be enough? Waiting 15 seconds for new ideas. The cloaked figure grinned malevolently, the lines of his face etched with years of dark experimentation. He raised one hand and summoned a wisp of shadow that danced into the air like smoke from an extinguished flame, coiling toward Elias. "You don't understand the power you toy with, boy." Elias's heart raced as he darted to the side, narrowly avoiding the encroaching darkness that hissed against the theater's wooden floors. Each heartbeat echoed in his ears, merging with Clara's impassioned voice outside, her words weaving a tapestry of hope amidst rising tensions. As shadows encroached around him, Elias remembered snippets from the journal. There was a counterspell hidden among its pages, a way to disrupt temporal manipulation using pure conviction and trust in history itself. The only problem was locating it within himself before this sinister force consumed everything. "I've seen glimpses of what your actions can lead to," Elias shouted desperately over the chaos brewing in his mind. "Tragedy! Division! Loss!" With every word spoken, raw energy crackled in the room, amplifying Clara's voice from beyond. The man recoiled for just a moment, giving Elias enough time to ready himself for whatever came next. But then, two glistening orbs materialized beside their adversary, ominous figures forming from swirling black mist. Manifestations of despair that sought to snuff out hope. "Foolish boy," sneered the hooded figure again, gesturing violently. The hourglass began to tremble on its pedestal as grains of crimson sand flowed upward, a sign that time itself was being warped dangerously. Elias felt reality bending underfoot as if caught in a tempestuous storm. And suddenly Clara burst through the door with firelight illuminating her fierce expression. She gasped at what she beheld. Shadows straining against walls adorned with gilded decor and swirling energy choking away any spark of brightness. "No!" she cried out instinctively, as both herself and Elias faced down their greatest fear, the chaotic crossroads between fate and freedom. As they stood on a precipice where history hung perilously by threads woven together by choices yet to be made. Waiting 15 seconds for new ideas. Clara's fierce determination sparked a surge within Elias. He locked eyes with her, drawing strength from their shared purpose. "Together," he declared, his voice steady against the whirlwind of chaos. They joined hands, her warmth igniting his resolve, and focused on the hazy outline of the hooded figure and his menacing shadows. "We won't let you rewrite history!" Clara shouted defiantly. With that declaration, Elias reached deep into his memories of kindness, courage, and change throughout the ages, the very pillars upon which progress stood. The journal seemed to resonate within him, its wisdom coursing through his veins like electric currents igniting fires long extinguished. Drawing an ancient symbol in the air with their entwined fingers, they unleashed a wave of luminous energy that surged toward the hourglass. In an eruption of blinding light, time itself bent before them. Grains of crimson sand froze mid-air as whispers from countless voices echoed all around, a chorus celebrating freedom and unity across generations. The hooded figure howled in rage as Clara and Elias channeled every ounce of their will to push back against malevolent forces seeking to divide. Shadows recoiled and dissipated like mist under brilliant sunlight. In an instant, everything shifted. Peace washed over them. The hourglass shattered spectacularly, scattering threads of darkness into oblivion while revealing golden grains representing hope that would ripple through time. As calm ensued, Clara turned to Elias with shining eyes filled with gratitude. "We did it," she breathed softly, and indeed they had. They restored not just moments in history, but future possibilities, awaiting those willing to stand for justice and equity. Together they returned home, changed forever by their adventure, knowing they had secured a brighter path for all who dared to dream beyond what was possible. Waiting 15 seconds for new ideas. Years later, New London thrived under a renewed spirit of unity and progress. Clara Sinclair became a prominent leader of the suffragette movement, tirelessly advocating for women's rights while drawing inspiration from her time with Elias. Their names were etched in history, celebrated not just as activists, but as pioneers who had challenged the very fabric of time itself. Elias, now a revered clockmaker known for his intricate designs, infused his creations with symbols of hope and resilience. Each clock he crafted served as a reminder of their triumph over darkness and despair, testaments to the power individuals held when united by purpose. At an annual gathering honoring historical figures lost to time's whims, Clara stood before an eager crowd, recounting tales of courage interwoven with Elias's ingenious inventions. The air crackled with excitement and determination as people reflected on how far they had come. As dusk settled over the city skyline bathed in soft golden hues, Clara smiled at Elias, standing proudly beside her. Together, they gazed toward the horizon. A future brightened by their efforts, secure in the knowledge that love and bravery could shape destiny itself. End of story. Starting a new story in 10 seconds. On the outskirts of the village of Eldergrove, a crumbling Victorian manor stood shrouded in mist and legend. The townsfolk whispered tales of those who had entered but never returned, an unsettling aura clinging to its decaying walls. A stormy night saw 3 brave souls embarking on a daring exploration of this haunted relic. Elise, a curious college student with fiery auburn hair that cascaded down her back. Michael, a skeptical history major whose thick glasses often slipped down his nose as he adjusted them in disbelief. And Sarah, adventurous yet timid, sporting short pixie-cut dark hair and an insatiable appetite for the unknown. As they creaked open the heavy wooden door, its hinges groaning like the lamenting souls rumored to haunt these halls, the air turned cold and stale. Dust motes danced erratically in their flashlight beams as they stepped over the threshold into darkness. Every corner seemed to whisper secrets long buried within its shadows. Suddenly, an ominous crash echoed from upstairs, sending chills racing down their spines. Despite Michael's insistence that it was merely a raccoon or something equally mundane, Elise felt an undeniable pull beckoning her toward the staircase, an instinct that both intrigued and terrified her. They hesitated at first, but soon found themselves inching forward into something they couldn't possibly understand. waiting 15 seconds for new ideas. With each creaky step they took up the staircase, a heavy silence enveloped them, amplifying even the softest of whispers. Elise led the way, her heart racing with anticipation and fear as she gripped her flashlight tightly. The upper hall was lined with dusty portraits whose eyes seemed to follow their every move, each frame telling a forgotten story of joy or sorrow. As they reached the end of the hallway, a faint light flickered from behind an ornate door, its once grand wood now chipped and worn. Michael peered through the keyhole, his curiosity overpowering his skepticism. "I see something, but it's just too hazy to make out." Air thickened as Sarah suddenly shrieked softly. Something cold brushed against her arm, a fragile whisper in the darkness that sent shivers coursing down her spine. "Did you feel that?" she breathed, wide-eyed. Elise nodded slowly, unable to speak as dread washed over her. She turned the doorknob. It resisted for a moment before swinging open with a reluctant groan. Inside was a large room adorned in shadows. A grand chandelier hung precariously overhead, dust spilling down like tears from its spectral glow. At first glance, it appeared abandoned until their eyes adjusted to reveal something remarkable. An old gramophone sat on a table in one corner, untouched yet playing haunting melodies that echoed like distant memories calling out for recognition. Suddenly ensconced by both wonder and unease, they approached cautiously, each note seeming to resonate with their very souls as uncertainty loomed heavy around them. Waiting 15 seconds for new ideas. The air thickened with a mixture of nostalgia and despair as the gramophone's tune filled the room, intertwining with their hearts. Elise stepped closer, her fingertips grazing the polished surface. "What if this belonged to someone who lived here?" she mused aloud, eyes narrowing in thought. "Or someone who never left?" Sarah added quietly, her gaze drifting toward an old mirror on the wall, its glass fogged and cracked. In that moment, something flickered within it. Shadows that didn't belong to any of them danced in the reflection. They exchanged nervous glances. Michael shoved his hands into his pockets defiantly. "Come on, it's just an old record player. Let's find out what else is up here." He turned away from the eerie sight but felt a chill wrap around him like an icy embrace. As they swept through more rooms adorned with lavish remnants of a bygone age, upturned furniture draped in white sheets and faded wallpaper peeling like memories long forgotten, they stumbled upon a library filled with books whose spines appeared to stretch endlessly into shadowy corners. The scent of aged paper wafted through the air, a comforting yet suffocating reminder of stories frozen in time. Elise picked up one book, bound in worn leather, its title obscured by dust. As she opened it, brittle pages crackled under her touch, revealing handwritten notes slashed across paragraphs, hurried scribbles hinting at hidden truths, and events hastily recorded before silence fell. Suddenly, a loud thud startled them. The door they had entered from slammed shut with violent force. The atmosphere shifted dangerously as shadows grew thicker around them. Uncertainty gripped each heart tighter than before. Waiting 15 seconds for new ideas.
So sorry I was gone so long. Yeah. My bad.
Panic surged in the library as Elise dropped the book, its pages fluttering with life before settling to a haunting stillness. Sarah rushed to the door, her trembling fingers twisting at the handle, but it wouldn't budge. It felt as though an unseen force held it shut. Michael shouted over his racing heart, "We need to find another way out." The flickering chandelier above cast erratic shadows on their faces, distorting them into grotesque forms. Fear magnified so intensely that they barely recognized one another. A low hum resonated through the manor now, a vibrating frequency that seemed to pulse along with their hearts. "Listen!" Elise called out suddenly as she pressed her hands against her ears, overwhelmed by a dissonance rising from below. A chorus of whispers wrapping around them like tendrils of fog. The more they strained to hear, the clearer they became. Desperate cries mingled with laughter long extinguished, echoing through history's corridors. Seizing a moment of clarity amidst chaos, Sarah pointed toward an open archway leading deeper into the house. "There! Maybe we can find a window or something." But Elise hesitated. A wave of dread washed over her at the thought of leaving behind what might hold vital answers about this place and its echoes of sorrow. A sudden crash rattled through the manor. An explosion of sound that drowned out their thoughts and sent dust cascading from above like rain on a forgotten grave. Shadows slithered closer as if alive with intent, the ominous atmosphere thickening until it felt suffocating. Forcing herself forward, despite paralyzing fear gripping each limb, Elise stepped toward the archway. Waiting 15 seconds for new ideas. As Elise entered the archway, her heart pounded against her chest like a drum of fate. The others followed reluctantly, propelled by a desperate hope for escape. They found themselves in a dimly lit cellar, filled with cobwebs and the scent of damp earth. A single window at the far end glowed faintly, as though beckoning them toward freedom. Without hesitation, Elise dashed toward it, determined to break free from the oppressive grip of the manor's hold. As she reached the window, she discovered it was covered in iron bars, the gleaming metal catching fragments of moonlight that filtered through grime and decay. Defeated momentarily, she turned back to Michael and Sarah, just as they heard footsteps echoing ominously above them. "We need to find something sturdy," Michael urged, desperately scanning the room before spotting an old wooden crate nearby. Together, they hoisted it up against the wall beneath the barred window. With adrenaline coursing through their veins like wildfire, Elise climbed atop it and braced herself against the bars. Just then, a gust of wind swept through the cellar, a final whisper from whatever haunted presence lingered in those walls. And with sheer determination backed by terror, she pushed with all her might until one bar snapped loose. "Come on! Now!" shouted Sarah as Elise clambered down and helped them both push aside debris blocking their path out. With newfound resolve fueling them, they made their way back upstairs through rooms still hauntingly filled with echoes but now devoid of shadows chasing them. Reaching the front door once more, their hearts raced wildly, this time not from fear but exhilaration, before flinging it open into stormy night air. Emerging into freedom's embrace felt surreal. Rain washed over them as they stumbled away from Eldergrove Manor's cursed grasp. Behind them resonated remnants of whispers fading into silence. A bittersweet farewell that would forever haunt their memories, yet grant peace with each step taken towards dawn on that fog-laden morning. They had escaped, but shadows lingered behind closed doors in hidden corners where stories wait to be uncovered again someday. Waiting 15 seconds for new ideas. Months passed since their harrowing night at Eldergrove Manor, and the once curious trio had returned to their lives, changed forever. Elise channeled her experiences into a gripping thesis on haunted locations, now published and gaining local acclaim. Michael, shaken yet fascinated, dedicated himself to researching folklore and history surrounding ghost stories, his skepticism replaced by an appreciation for the unknown. Sarah transformed her fear into creativity, crafting an award-winning short film based on their adventure that captivated audiences far beyond the village. Despite their separate paths, they remained connected through shared memories of that fateful night, each heartbeat resonating with unspoken understanding of what lay hidden in shadows and dust. The manor was eventually deemed too dangerous for exploration and condemned by the town. A final chapter closing not just on the building itself, but also on the lingering fears it had embedded deep within them. In its aftermath, they found solace in knowing that darkness could coexist with light, that genuine friendship could illuminate even the most chilling tales. While echoes of haunting melodies would forever dance in their dreams, they forged ahead into new adventures, bound by courage rather than fear. End of story. Starting a new story in 10 seconds.
But I'll never make the other jump. Yes, I will.
In the heart of a vibrant city, where the skyscrapers danced with twinkling lights and street vendors filled the air with the aroma of roasted chestnuts, there thrived an independent bookstore called Pages of Time. The shop nestled between a bustling cafe and an art gallery, radiating warmth and charm. Inside, shelves towering to the ceiling were crammed with novels from every era, each with its own story waiting to be discovered. Eleanor, a spirited woman in her late 20s, with deep auburn hair cascading down her back like autumn leaves, ran this sanctuary of stories. She had inherited it from her grandmother and poured her soul into making it a welcoming haven for book lovers far and wide. Yet despite her success in business, Eleanor felt tangled in solitude. She longed for connection beyond the pages. One chilly November evening, just as twilight painted the sky indigo, Julian strode through the door. A tall man whose magnetic presence was framed by a slightly disheveled look that hinted at his creative nature. An aspiring novelist searching for inspiration, he instantly captivated Eleanor's attention. Their initial conversation crackled with an unspoken chemistry rich enough to fill volumes. However, lurking beneath their burgeoning romance lay a conflict. Julian had applied for a prestigious writing fellowship that would take him across the ocean for 6 months, a journey that threatened to unravel whatever fragile bond was forming between them amid dusty bookshelves and cozy reading corners. Waiting 15 seconds for new ideas. As days turned into weeks, Julian became a familiar presence in Pages of Time. He spent hours hunched over the cafe table in the corner, scribbling ideas into his worn leather notebook, while Eleanor arranged books and shared anecdotes about her favorite authors. They exchanged laughter and stories like precious gifts, slipping into a rhythm that felt as natural as turning the pages of their beloved novels. Yet, as November waned, tension began to coil tight around Eleanor's heart like a vine choking a flower. The day of Julian's fellowship announcement arrived with an eerily calm atmosphere. Even the city seemed to hold its breath. She busied herself behind the counter, trying to mask her anxiety while stealing glances at Julian. His hopeful demeanor was infectious, yet daunting. When he finally received word via email, a flash of blue light illuminating his face, Eleanor's stomach twisted painfully. As he read aloud, his voice trembling with excitement, she felt both joy for him and dread for what it might mean for them. "I got it! I'm going!" A moment danced between them, suspended in time. His delight radiating warmth against her unsettling news. Yet just as quickly as the applause of joy sounded within him, reality crashed in waves through Eleanor's mind. What did this mean for their fragile connection? Would they be merely footnotes in each other's lives, or something more profound? Outside, leaves rustled ominously underfoot. Inside, pages of time, uncertainty lingered thickly like dust on forgotten tomes waiting to be rediscovered. Waiting 15 seconds for new ideas.
I am losing focus.
Eleanor watched Julian's jubilant reaction, her heart a stormy sea of emotions crashing against the shore of reality. "That's incredible," she managed to say, forcing a smile that felt more like a mask than genuine joy. The shop's cozy ambiance seemed suddenly claustrophobic, filled with shadows that echoed her dread. As Julian reveled in his success, sharing visions of adventures in Europe and literary gatherings where he could showcase his work, the weight of sorrows pressed down on Eleanor. Each animated word from him felt like a wave pulling him further away. She found herself nodding along mechanically, part of her wanting to be swept up in his excitement, while another part clung desperately to their moments together. The warmth of shared laughter over coffee and whispered dreams amid stacks of novels. "Eleanor?" His voice broke through her reverie as he studied her face closely. "What is it? You're not happy for me." The vulnerability in his gaze cut deep, igniting an internal struggle within her. Did she reveal the truth? That every joy he had would draw him further into the horizon as she remained anchored here? Instead, she swallowed hard and brushed aside tears. "I just wish we had more time before you go." Julian nodded slowly, sensing the unspoken heaviness between them, but unsure how to lighten it. "We can make this count," he said with determination. In those words lay both hope and uncertainty. A fragile promise woven into their fleeting time together amidst shelves stacked high with stories just waiting to unfold. As dusk deepened outside, cloaking pages of time in its embrace, Eleanor opened her mouth to respond. But hesitation held back the confession teetering on the edge of her tongue. Waiting 15 seconds for new ideas. Over the following weeks, their days blurred into a whirlwind of stolen moments and fervent conversations. Day by day, the prospect of Julian's departure loomed closer like a gathering storm cloud. Each time Eleanor caught his eye across the shop, laughter dancing upon their lips, an invisible thread tugged at her heart. A reminder that every joyous recollection was tainted with impending loss. The city transformed around them as winter tightened its grip. The air grew crisp and biting. On what would be one of their final nights together inside pages of time, they decided to host a small reading event for the community, hoping to connect through shared stories yet again. The evening unfolded with warmth, the crackling fire in the corner accompanied by flurries of conversation and laughter, having everyone forget about what lay just beneath the surface. As Julian stood before a group of eager listeners reciting an excerpt from his story, his voice confident and electric, Eleanor glanced around at those captivated by him. A deep longing swirled within her chest, like a tempest threatening to burst free. In that moment, she wanted nothing more than to possess him entirely, to bottle up this night and keep it safe from time's relentless march. But when he returned to her side after finishing his piece, she felt a growing unease gnawing at her resolve. A quickening realization of what lay ahead. "I have something I need to tell you," she began nervously, suddenly aware that all eyes were on them now, the audience anticipating another enchantment. Just then, chaos erupted outside as sirens blared through the cobblestone streets. A jarring disruption that shattered their intimate cocoon. Panic rippled through the crowd. Eleanor's stomach churned as she spotted flickers of red lights reflecting off nearby windows. She turned to Julian but found his expression puzzled, curiosity battling concern. "Wait here," he urged before rushing toward the door to investigate, while Eleanor's heart raced in tandem with uncertainty clawing at her throat. What if this moment unraveled everything? As she lingered behind, torn between worry for Julian's safety and urgency for her confession, time seemed suspended. The shrill wail of a police siren faded into silence, only replaced by murmurs spilling over from outside, where shadows began shifting ominously against storefronts dimly lit by street lamps. Eleanor took a sharp breath. This was not how it was supposed to end. They were meant to share words full of promise instead. Frustration surged within until finally breaking loose. "Julian!" she called out desperately,
giving it one more
just as
try and
chaos
that's it.
engulfed them both.
When it hits 2 hours, I'm calling it a day.
Waiting 15 seconds for new ideas. Julian turned at the sound of her voice, hesitating just outside the door as police officers directed a growing crowd away from an incident unfolding nearby. Eleanor saw the worry etched across his face and realized this was her moment. Everything must be said before fate took him far away. "Please, listen!" she shouted over the commotion, narrowing the distance between them as he stepped back into pages of time. She felt adrenaline coursing through her veins, propelling her forward. "I don't want you to go without knowing. I think we could have something beautiful together. I've been so scared that your adventure will take you too far away for us to ever share our own story." His expression shifted from uncertainty to surprise, then softened into understanding. The noise surrounding them faded. It felt like they were in their own world within those walls filled with countless tales. "I never wanted to leave behind what we have," Julian replied, stepping closer until there was barely any space left between them. "The fellowship is an opportunity I can't ignore, but I also can't ignore my feelings for you." Eleanor's heart leaped as he reached out trembling fingers to tuck a loose strand of hair behind her ear. In that gentle gesture lay all the unspoken words they had shared in stolen glances and secret smiles throughout autumn nights. "Let's not say goodbye tonight," he offered earnestly, determination shining bright in his hazel eyes. They stood together amidst a gathering storm, yet dared to dream beyond it. A promise forged amid uncertainty. With newfound resolve binding their hearts like ink on paper, they faced whatever awaited them both. One continent apart, but united by words crafted from love. Two stories intertwined forevermore amid myriad pages waiting to be turned. Waiting 15 seconds
not
for
paying
new
attention.
ideas.
I am just lost in thought. I am not even doing good. I am actually about to call it here. What part are we on? Let me see.
Months later, as cherry blossoms painted the city in soft shades
Okay,
of
this is the
pink,
last part.
Eleanor stood outside pages of time, admiring the blooming trees. The independent bookstore had become a thriving hub for local writers and readers alike, a testament to her resilience and passion. Julian's adventure across the ocean had brought him back home, not just as an accomplished writer ready to share his novels, but also with stories that echoed alongside Eleanor's own. He reappeared one sunlit afternoon at the shop carrying a bouquet of fresh flowers, symbolic blooms that matched the vibrant spirit of their connection. As he stepped through the door, she felt her heart swell. Julian grinned, every bit as enchanted by her presence and the cozy atmosphere they had built together over time. They embraced tightly. No words were needed. Their love had deepened during those months apart. A bond forged through letters filled with dreams and whispered secrets despite distance. Together, side by side in their beloved sanctuary of stories, they began crafting new chapters, not just individually, but as partners weaving their lives into a shared narrative full of hope, joy, and endless possibilities ahead. End of story. Starting a new story in 10 seconds.
Oh, sorry. I think we call it. All right. Thank you so much, Storyteller, for all the stories you have given us tonight. And man, I was not paying attention to a good chunk of them, like I should have been. That's why we didn't really do too many reviews besides the first one. So we're gonna go ahead and give this last jump a little try here. And man, it's really weird to speak. Fucking. God. If only that was all I needed to get done. All right, I'm calling it here. Thank you so much for watching. So I'm called a day. If you liked it, like, comment, subscribe, and I will